Very good. All right. Good morning. The July 10th Board of Directors meeting is called to order. I hope everyone had a wonderful 4th holiday. First, I would like to ask our interpreters to explain how to access interpretation. Please go ahead.
Good morning. To use the interpretation feature, please scroll to the bottom of the Zoom screen where the meeting controls are. Click on the interpretation icon, World, and select English as your language. If you're joining through the Zoom mobile app, cell phone, tablet, etc., please press the ellipsis, then interpretation, and then choose your language. Finally, click on Mute Original Audio to not hear the original Spanish flow in the background. Headsets are available for interpretation. If you're in the meeting room, please check out a headset from the receptionist in the lobby. Thank you. Para hacer uso del servicio de interpretación, favor de desplazarse a la parte inferior de la pantalla de Zoom, donde aparecen los controles. Haga clic en el icono de interpretación globo terráqueo y seleccione Spanish, español. Si está utilizando la aplicación móvil de Zoom, celular, tableta, etc., presione los puntos suspensivos, luego interpretación y luego el idioma. Si no desea escuchar el audio original en inglés en el fondo, por favor seleccione Mute Original Audio, silenciar audio original. Contamos con auriculares disponibles para el servicio de interpretación. Si se encuentra en la sala de reunión, favor de pedir auriculares con la recepcionista en el vestíbulo. Gracias. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the land that we call home. The tribal nations of the San Diego region have historically faced injustices. We acknowledge the harmony that existed between the land, nature, and its original peoples who have since endured displacement, persecution, and systemic oppression. We pay our respect to the unceded territory and homelands of the 18 tribal nations in our region, the most in any county in the United States, from 4 cultural groups, the Kumeyaay-Digueño, the Luiseño, the Cupeño, and the Cahuilla. This land has nourished, healed, protected, and embraced them for many generations in a relationship of balance and harmony. As members of the SANDAG community, we acknowledge this legacy. We aspire to learn from the indigenous traditional knowledge and experiences and undoing the injustices of the past. Now, please join me in the flag salute. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Michael, can you please confirm quorum?
We have a quorum, Chair.
Very good. Let's move on to non-agenda public comment. Michael.
Thank you, Chair. We have 4 in person. If you're online and want to make a comment, please raise your hand now. All right, we have none online, Chair. So 4 in person, we'll go with Truth, followed by Parita Javier.
All right, first message for the new security besides welcome. I am legally noticing that Manuela Plumagida is a proven threat to me, and I am demanding protection from her whenever she enters and exits the room because she can pound sewage, because I've been here since 2023. And I barely heard the critique, let's keep it up, of not enough rose-colored fables involving children. So I have a positive story for Manny, who hasn't ridden a bus in 30 years old. When I was a teenager, my friend and I took the trolley to Seaport Village. There was no trash, no graffiti, no encampments, no drug addicts. Do you know why? Because we both paid our fares as children, just like the adults did. Accountability was expected. You know, like Moocher Manny paying your own $67,000 campaign debt, for example. According to Antoinette, the youth opportunity at Trafficking Pass has resulted in 40 million rides. At either a $250 bus ride or a $14 coaster ride, that's a $100 to $560 million revenue loss. What are MTS and NCT's deficits again? MTS obviously doesn't care because they're trying to implement a $2 million program to make those almost non-existent citations administrative only. SANDAG always brags about major increases in ridership, but it's never paid ridership. Only unaccompanied minors SANDAG has enabled to be trafficked and exposed to unimaginable crimes on transit, crimes that adults will soon have to pay more to experience. Steve Goebel has often taken my line that a fare increase is not unfair, but he always omits my caveat, which is only if security is equally increased. When MTS stopped collecting fares in 2020, crime rose to about 800 assaults in 2022. When MTS finally added a few more armed security crime finally started going down, and MTS collected $1 million more a year in 2023. In 2011, NCTD had a 98% fare recovery. Now it's down to 48%. Accountability and safety go hand in hand and are possible. And that's the only place a fare increase should go, not for unlimited general fund use by the corrupt union-controlled transit boards. And for the record, the only reason MIA Matthew showed up last meeting is because I called him out for his absences.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Next is Prita Javier, followed by Cesar Javier.
Good morning. I am Purita Javier, victim of ceramics home business, toxicity, in a residential zone community located, constructed, and operated since 1984. We are hurt. We live in fear. Or 5 years, the elected 11 city officials ignored and neglected our community concerns under Elo Rivera. Ceramics kiln toxicity. Number 2, fast morning traffic. Number 3, continuing watch alert on home invasion, 14 cases. Number 4, Choyas, Greek, mosquito, Victor, and number 5, Choyas, Park, and Pothole. Number 6, City, Heights, and Public Garden. Now, New Routes Project.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Next is Cesar Javier, followed by allegedly Audra.
To form a perfect union, working together to ensure justice, something that is fair for all. Councilor Lacaba, Councilor Vivian Moreno, our city elected officials. You heard my wife. We are hurt. For 5 years, likened to 1993 border crisis, you have ignored, neglected. Councilor Campillo, during the deliberation whether it shall be proclaimed declared crisis, the graduate of law of Harvard University explains that, we cannot declare crisis because of the unintended consequences. Money to be spent for cure, care, clean up, whatever. Money, money, money. You are threatened, not by Purita and Javier family. Never, because we swore allegiance to the flag, to God, country, and San Diegans. Clear us, Sir Lacaba, for telling the public that I crossed the line. What can I hurt? What unjust for 5 years? We are not only for ourselves, but for our community, representing 77 residents, Asian, Latino.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Next is last public comment is allegedly Audra.
So interesting that you mentioned the 4th of July. I'd like to share my experience, just in case you guys were unaware. At the county, Jim and Joel gave their balls to Paloma and the other two Jezebels to take over the 250th anniversary of our Independence Day. And it was interesting. I thought, oh, I'm gonna go down there and I'm gonna, see how many people are there. And it's interesting because as it's starting, there's some people showing up because of the fireworks. And so then as you're going, I'm thinking, where am I at? This has nothing to do with America. I mean, besides the, county building being in red, white, and blue, there was maybe 10 chairs and people would kind of walk by and just, maybe sit down to participate because they're waiting for the fireworks. And yet Puto Paloma here sent a picture online and was saying that it was packed by her taking over and totally destroying the holiday, not even showing up. None of them showed up. None of them spoke. And then she claims that it was packed. No, nobody was there outside of me. I think I'm the only one that literally intended to go to that event. And it had nothing to do with America outside of 3 times at the very end. They accidentally started to play this song Born in the USA. And it was like, oh my gosh, who messed up there? But it was interesting because it's like 3 times you're thinking, oh my gosh, it's going to be played. This is the one thing that has to do with America. That's crazy. And then they didn't play it. And it's so sad that people can be traitors in our midst and totally reset the precedents now of what our county is going to be doing to celebrate. So it's like as you sit there and you pledge allegiance to the flag, I mean, maybe you should think about the people that are on this board that are trying to destroy everything that America stands for.
Thank you. That concludes our non-agenda public comment, Chair. Just a note to commenters online to please raise your hand at the start of an item. Thank you.
Okay, any non-agenda member comments? I see none. That brings us to Mario's comments.
Thank you and good morning. On our HSC updates, SANDAG received a request for a toll facility financial and performance data from Caltrans. This is quasi an audit that's normal, that it's done, that the department does, and it's required by federal law to audit all toll facility records, usually happens on an annual basis. Like I said, this is a standard audit to help the state with its own financing and compliance efforts. Some good news, our TIFIA loan rating was increased from AA- to A+ by Fitch. This is great news. This is the second rating upgrade this year that has occurred on a SANDAG loan. The California state budget passed, as most of you are aware. Within the budget language, something very important, there was a 5-year extension to the $300 million for the LOSUM funding. That was huge. That funding was going to expire next year. And I have to say kudos to our GR team who worked very actively together with Senator Blake Spear to add the wording in the budget and that extension that allows us to keep working on the multiple LOSUM projects. In the budget also, cap and invest, it's still a concern. A lot of our transportation transit funding comes from cap and invest, and there's still discussion going on how that's going to be dealt. Like I mentioned before, there are some shortfalls that are going to have to be dealt with, and we need to continue working on that. Something also very important and encouraging is at the same time that the budget discussions were going on our last board meeting, actually we were exchanging texts were coming in, the CTC was also having their meeting, the California Transportation Commission, and the CTC took some very important actions. One, regarding the OME, they allowed us to couple the funding that we had for the multiple phases, and there's going to be a presentation on OME today, but they allowed us to concentrate the funding to passenger vehicles, as well as with the support of Caltrans. There was an advance of two years of the CBI program granted to the project also. So it was, I don't remember the exact amount, but the total package was above $200 million that the region was able to negotiate between reallocating and new funding coming in. So that's huge. Another huge action was the CTC allowed us to allocate $214 million for the San Diego double track bridge project, getting us very, very close to release the construction package. Hopefully this fall. We are updating our cost estimates. It wouldn't be surprising me that there are some shortfalls there. That's normal with inflation, and our finance department will look at updating the strategy. But this $214 million of funding allows us to basically have, let's call 95% ready to advertise the job. So if you put numbers together, 2 weeks ago, from Friday to Monday, we were discussing negotiating with Sacramento north of $500 to $600 million that the agency was able to renegotiate, secure, and allocate. So that's humongous. We are tracking the federal notice for proposed rulemaking by OMB. This is regarding grants and how grants are managed by OMB. Like I said, we're tracking that. It has the possibility of how it could be impacted and how grants could be clawed back. So we're learning more. We're trying to find out more and communicating with the different representative groups like transit groups or NPO groups to see what's the comments that are going to be sent out there. We also we're continue working with our different assessments of our departments, and that's something I've put a lot of effort into. We are in the second phase of the toll operations department assessment. I'm very happy what the outcomes are coming out. Between audits that have been done from the past and the assessment in our day-to-day operations, we definitely know that there are a lot of challenges, but it's always good to bring experts from outside to give it a snapshot, a checkup, and give us some recommendations of what actions we need to take. Right, we know that we're moving forward with the new back office that's going to be online next year. We know that the DMV hold that is not occurring currently is a concern for being able to collect violators, and that we're working on that. So those are things that we've always known that they're happening and that we're actively working, but also internally how we should be reorganizing and what levels of expertise we should have within that department. So it really is creating a roadmap for success. In the same token, we have kicked off our HR assessment, and that's also looking on hiring practices, procedures, policies. I think an audit is going to be coming out. I'm pretty sure that I know what the results are going to be, and they're going to make some recommendations. And the good thing is that we already started working on the fix with this assessment. So it's not a matter of waiting for things. When you see something, do something, right? So that's what we're doing. That's pretty much the update I have for today.
Okay, great. That brings us to the consent calendar. Michael, do we have comments on consent?
Yes, we have 5 in person. If you're online and would like to comment on consent agenda, please raise your hand now. Our 5 in person first is Truth, followed by Ben Nichols. All please limit your comments to items on the consent agenda only. Please state the consent agenda item you're speaking to. If comments are not related to the consent agenda, you'll be asked to stay on topic. If you do not stay on topic, you will be muted. So first is Truth, followed by Ben Nichols.
Item 3.1, the minutes prove that when Luz said she was willing to concede on geographic distribution for the active transportation program, she didn't. She voted no. Liar. Item 3.2, I'm demanding transparency on where SANDAG meetings and events occur because where determines whether it costs taxpaying residents either $100 or $150 each. Why can't you be transparent? Item 3.3, another SANDAG, Madi, and Omar slime green uphill bike lane project becoming a money pit, up by $5 million. No big deal, just throw it in the consent. How many bike cartel minions are going to be paid to speak in favor today? They love when 1.1 miles of paint costs $49 million. And because you did not separate the cost from the progressive promenade, don't expect me to. On SANDAG's statement to the news about traffic at Pride, who cares? How about talk about the 52 or 5, something we actually care about? Where's your real solutions instead of these political pet projects? This board has multi-million-dollar rainbows stuck in its eyes, and it's caused blindness to the problems residents face every day. No pride there, only shame. Item 4, is local discretionary funds supposed to say discretionary, or does SANDAG create words like it creates money pits? And MTS spending another $290 million on buses it can't afford. Idiots. Item 3.5, Austin Foy, no to the leftist Metropolitan Area Advisory Committee getting a foothold at SANDAG when they profit off stack and packs and waste $13 million on their salaries and benefits a year. MAC has Kirby Brady on their board, who works for the city of San Diego, so that city has a conflict of interest. And Traffickers Jewish Family Service are on MAC, who have contracts with SANDAG, which is also a conflict. Rich Stevenson of Sweetwater, not bad. Nicholas Giordano, controller for Successful, WD-40, sounds okay. For the record, Chris was 7 minutes late, Judy 9 minutes late, Bill 10 minutes late, Kevin 16 minutes late, and Carolina still not. Oh, no, look, she finally showed up. And item 3.6, no disrespect to Davis Farr, but SANDAG spends too much money on audit and internal control, so they don't seem necessary.
Thank you. Next is Ben Nichols, followed by Cesar Javier. Please state the consent agenda item you're speaking to.
Hello, I'm speaking to item number 3. My name is Benjamin Nichols, and I'm the Executive Director of the Hillcrest Business Association, and I'm here representing our 1,800 small business and property owners in Hillcrest. And I'm here to express our continued support for the Pride Promenade and the Eastern Hillcrest Bikeway project. I'm here to assure you all of our community's continued support for this project. The project is a collaboration between many parties over many, many years, and it has generated real excitement in our community. This isn't just a streetscape project, it's a safety corridor, a bikeway connection, and a symbol of pride for San Diego's most iconic LGBT neighborhoods. People are really excited for this project, and I really encourage you to support it. Thank you.
Next is Cesar Javier, followed by allegedly Audra. Please state the consent agenda item you're speaking to.
We are humans like you. The only difference is we have less and we are hurt. We speak here not to threaten anyone. We are the threatened species of the region. Councilor Luqadda, remember that, please. Under God, Ma'am Vivian Moreno, we learn from you. You have a big heart, but big heart is not a solution to what is happening. That's the meaning of the minutes to us. It gives us hope for the less and the hurt and the threatened. What is new? Surprise! SANDAG, for some reason, political color of the dollar money, has allocated $8.6 million to tackle plan affordability housing. Sir Mario, Sandiegans do not need low-cost housing. They need shelter for those homeless. I think that is the essence of the minutes which we would like to voice to the thinkers, particularly our 11 elected officials. We expect from you guys something different. something that is let's do the right thing. 3.3, for example.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Next is allegedly Audra, followed by Sharon Gale.
Speaking on the minutes, and last time and many other times, I made you guys very aware that if you were not going to cure and correct the 3 meetings that engaged in not noticing the meetings properly, which, you know, doesn't make sense that you guys wouldn't all know this. I mean, you run other boards, and that is something that is juvenile as far as acting as though it's not something that you need to do, which means you potentially could be doing it in your city as well. And so perhaps I need to go to all of your cities to make sure that you're complying, because you guys sit here and you had, you know, you're talking about SB 707 and giving everybody the Brown Act. It's like you should take a test on it, because if you can't make sure that you're running meetings legally with just the basics, which is noticing a meeting properly, and then not course correcting for 3 meetings and forcing me to go back 6 months. That is so negligent that you wouldn't even address it, and all of you couldn't say, hey, it would probably behoove us to not have to go back and redo 6 months of business because we didn't notice a meeting properly. You know that has to happen. It's like, I don't understand why you want to stick your feet in the ground and act like, well, fuck you to the people. That isn't fair, but it shows you can't be trusted. Because now you're going to waste millions of our dollars for this to take place. And it doesn't have to. But because you're unwilling to be humble and do the right thing, you guys are forcing this to happen. How dare you do that to the people? And so everything else, it's like the people should see this so that they know that the business that you do has been done illegally just on the basis of running a meeting. So if you can't do that, they should.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Online, first is Blair Beekman, followed by Karina Pugh. Chair, we have 5 online. Go ahead, Blair. Please state the consent agenda item you're speaking to.
Yeah, 3.1 and 3.3. Good luck to the Javieres who have been working with their own community for years now on this issue. I hope our people at SANDAG could know how to want to practice policy and address their issue. Good luck in that attempts. I had 2 items for 3.1 of the meeting minutes. Previously, 3.6 is about Transnet extension ordinance things. I just wanted to quickly remind that because of, you know, you're going to have to deal with the SDMTS funding item, you know, and how to deal with the future affairs. That's put off till September. You may have to do additional study through the fall. And then, you know, have a final plan by, say, January of 27. If that's the case, Transnet funding can be used to supplement some sort of funding if you do it accountably and responsibly through the fall. And good luck in figuring those patterns out, and a reminder of that as needed. And for item 3.3, the proposed Uptown Bikeways issue item for the Hillcrest area, really good luck with this project. I've been really trying to describe the importance of tech accountability at this time. New ideas that, you know, with companies like Flock, we can actually look for an ALPR vendor that doesn't practices the concepts of war. I mean, fighting for Israel and its allies is important, its allyship, but working towards peace, policies of peace instead of war is also a really interesting concept we're just learning. And we can find that in a new ALPR vendor. Good luck in how the people of Hillcrest need their security, but also can practice accountability. And that means ALPR use in real time has to be more clear in San Diego how exactly we're working with it. All the people need to understand that, not just the police.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Actually, we'll go back to Miss Sharon Gale. Sorry about that in person.
Hello. My name is Sharon Gale. I live in Uptown. I've supported the Pride Promenade as a member of the Hillcrest Foundation for over 12 years. I also attended meetings and supported the regional bike plan that this board approved in 2013. Hundreds of other people have attended meetings and spoken in favor of both the promenade and the bikeway that will run through it. Beginning in 1988 with the Uptown Plan that included a normal street park. The 2016 plan also included a park because of the community wanted it. The projects are now under construction and people in the neighborhood are anxious for them to be done. But there have been unforeseen conditions that have caused delays and increased costs. The good news is the City of San Diego has come up with the money to cover the additional costs. The board's job is easy. All you have to do is say yes to the money. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, going online, we're going to go Karina Pugh, followed by Gail Fried.
Good morning. My name is Karina Pugh. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm speaking in support of the Normal Street Promenade and Uptown Bikeways item on behalf of the San Diego LGBT Community Center. The acceptance of this item will ensure that the Normal Street Promenade and Uptown Bikeways projects can be completed correctly and safely. This location, once completed, will also be a key place of gathering for our LGBTQ+ communities and organizations for important community events. As third spaces continue to diminish and people, especially our young folks, are struggling to find community, the Normal Street Promenade will be an inclusive place in the heart of Hillcrest for folks to gather safely in community, whether for organized events or simply community get-togethers. We're excited to see this item move forward to ensure the project can be completed wholly and safely with the proper infrastructure. Please vote in favor of this item. Thank you.
Next is Gail Fried, followed by phone number ending in 1415.
Hi, my name is Gail Fried. I'm a resident of Hillcrest, and I'm commenting on item 3.3, and I'm just wanted to call in and urge you to approve this funding for the bikeway project in the promenade. We've been waiting a long time for this in our community, and it's going to be a great gathering place with 100 trees. There's going to be even additional parking, so I would just urge you to approve this. Thank you.
Next is phone number ending in 1415. You're self-muted. Phone number 1415. Go ahead.
Paula Bold, on the bikeway project, you're being asked to approve acceptance of $4.67 million, but only increasing the program budget by $4.03 million. So where's the other $647,000 going? I see something about a funding gap that's not clear what it's going to. A lot of this money is going to work outside the project limits. So are a bit of SANDAG's resources going to what the city should be doing? And notice that San Diego City is listed as a source for $2.67 million in 2028, but it sounds like they're budgeting it earlier. Hope the city can afford it. 3.5, hope that the public members are truly representative of the public as stakeholders. They should be representing every person who uses benefits from or is affected by SANDAG. That is too big a job for corporate persons who have vested, if not directed, interest in promoting the corporate point of view. Austin Foy looks like an excellent choice. I think Giordano looks okay, although his current experience looks a bit more like management rather than auditing. Bridge Stevenson looks like the weakest of the three. Not sure whether his experience at Sweetwater Authority and nowhere else is really what SANDAG needs right now. 3.6, I'm sure you're happy with David's farce and said did a generally positive SANDAG review in 2024. However, it has had problems in the past. In particular, there was a federal DOT
Thank
audit.
you. Your time has expired. Next is Paul Jameson, followed by Gambler.
Hi, my name is Paul Jameson. I'd like to express my support for item 3.3, the Eastern Hillcrest Bikeways project, especially since the budget amendment is being funded by the city of San Diego. The new pavement, utility, and drainage conflict work in the area makes sense to do as part of the current project. The alternative would be to ignore it and tear up the area again in the future, which nobody wants to see happen. I also want to point out that even though this is a bikeway project, it actually addresses a lot of long deferred street issues that impact all road users, not just bicyclists. So it really makes fiscal sense to do this. The Pride Promenade is also part of this project, as was stated earlier, and it'll be a huge improvement for residents and visitors. Finally, I often ride my bike through this area, including just yesterday. This project makes another huge difference for my and many others' safety. Please support item 3.3. Thank you.
Our last public comment is Gambler. Please state the consent agenda item you're speaking to.
I'm speaking on this consent agenda item. We do not need more bike lanes. Not enough people ride. We're in a friggin' desert. We don't need more housing. We don't need more of that. Most of the housing is unoccupied, so we don't need more of this crap. Number one, I just got a letter from the county, the PRR, that basically states that on citizenship. We don't pre-screen and we don't do it afterwards. I just got that from the county. They refuse to go ahead and give a particular answer. No records exist. So they say, well, because Shiloh went ahead and reported a bunch of people, he was the one that went ahead and told us who to go ahead and remove. That is bullshit. Flat out bullshit. So if anyone recognizes a non-citizen that has voted, report them to ICE. Hell, they don't even check the registration. If anyone registers a non-citizen and votes for them, they could then turn around and call ICE, because the registrar of voters will not screen the registration cards as promised in 1993. VRA regulation effort to remove uneligible people. So every friggin' person in this room most likely was selected, not elected, and do not belong in there to make these fucking you pieces of shit. Do something about it. Fix our election so we could get people
Your
that
time
are
has
twice.
expired.
Okay, thank you. That brings us to board member comments and perhaps a motion on the consent calendar. May I first call on Mayor Minto?
Yeah, I wanted to speak on 3.3. And it's kind of interesting because all of us that have done any kind of road construction in our cities, we know that sometimes there's a additional cost because of things found underneath the ground. And a lot of people don't understand that sometimes, in my opinion, we sometimes go overboard on building these bike projects, but that requires us to do something in the roadway, removing asphalt, whatever. The thing is that in San Diego and some other like parts of the county, a lot of these streets have been dug up over and over and over again to make some kind of correction to the roadway or to rehabilitate them. And I know, in fact, when I, believe it or not, used to dig ditches for SDG&E, we had a lot of these same issues. And so
there should be a record someplace of all the different types of undergrounding that's done. So when we're putting together these projects, I guess the question would be, and it's maybe rhetorical, are we looking at prior history to what's been done in the roadway to identify what's been there so that we can more accurately estimate the cost of the job? Because we shouldn't have to always find out, on the job training, so to speak, that there's something in the roadway or something underground. And why do we go so deep into the ground that we're hitting different types of, whether it's a sewer, electric, gas, or whatever? Why are we dig down so deep to rehabilitate the road for a bikeway?
Clint, would you like to respond?
Sure. I appreciate the question. Those things we're looking at, and on future jobs, we are taking some of those into account. On this project particularly, we actually did more extensive investigations because of some of the known. We anticipated some of the utilities and what we've learned on prior projects. We actually went out and did infrared radar. The utilities that we're hitting now on this portion of the project weren't even picked up there. And you asked, why are we going so deep? In some of these areas, you'll see on some of the photos, these utilities, the little water lines and other things are inches below the pavement. So they're not where you typically find them. They're not like if you current standards require some of those 36 inches down even further. They're within 6 inches, 8 inches. So some of these are, and they didn't show up on the radar scan. So some of these just, like you say, you get out there, they're older pavement, things have been done over the years, maybe not properly documented. So we did pull all as-built. We work with SDG&E before projects. We work with the city, and some of these older lines just don't show up on any of those.
Thank you. I know that we've run into some of those problems in our city also. My guess is that some areas might be so old that they even predate some of the codes that require certain things. And so I think that when we're asking for additional money to pay for unforeseen things in the ground or work to be done, maybe some of that could be included in the explanation, because without that, it's kind of like, oh, well, you guys just screwed up. You want more money. And a lot of times that's not the case. And but a lot of us at the table know that, and we read between the lines. People that don't have the same experience can't read between the lines. So we should do a better job at our explanation. That's all I have.
Thank you. First Vice Chair LaCava.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Mayor, for your comments. As the city of San Diego, I think there's a couple of points to make. A number of public speakers. One, this project's under construction, and to not accept this money would put the entire project under risk. And I don't think we want a half-built project left on anybody's streets. As you've heard me speak before, I'm trying to change a little bit of the culture at SANDAG, because we call these things bikeway projects, and it's most of these projects with their expensive price tags are not bikeway projects. They're actually complete street projects that are reimagining the entirety of our streetscape, which necessarily converting an old conventionally built street gets to be a little bit pricey. And thank you, Truth, for actually highlighting that. In fact, there's multiple components beyond just the bikeway. So, but until we make that change, we'll continue to see why are these bikeways so expensive. And I think, that's the reason, especially in this project here. It was put on consent because the only action we're doing is to accept money from the city of San Diego. We have realized the costs have exceeded the original budget, and the city of San Diego is ponying up the money to make sure that this project does get completed, I believe, next year going forward. To the mayor's point, as a civil engineer, one of my favorite memories as a baby engineer is getting yelled at by construction crews because I didn't pothole every 2 inches to discover every utility line that was never as built or built in the place that they said it was going forward. And as you said, that's part of the risk. And whether it is minor lines or it is gas and electric that have their own as-built styles, or it is elements that are so tiny that they never get as-built, but boy, they sure are disruptive to construction. Those are the unexpected costs. We hope that that's why we do a reserve component, but sometimes that's not even enough to tackle these kinds of challenges. So again, it's on consent because this is only about SANDAG accepting money from the city of San Diego that has either already budgeted or will be budgeting at our mid-year revise so that we can complete this project on time and meet everybody's expectations. And so with that, Chair, I will move the consent items.
Thank you very much. Mayor Sanchez, would you like to second that before speaking?
Yes, thank you. Second. I would very much like to second that. And I think I can beat the sewer issues. I think one of our projects, we ended up finding a dinosaur bone in Oceanside. So guess what? That delay was significant. And we're all like thinking every day there's a delay, it costs more money. And so we're like, oh no, how long is this going to take? But no, this is multimodal was what I was thinking, complete streets. Yes. And it's, this started in 2013, and it's great that it's still keeping that modern feel and really addressing the needs of the community. I actually lived in Normal Heights and Uptown for a bit during my, years of youth. It's when I was attracted to San Diego and all the things that were happening in San Diego. So I do know this area well, and I'm just happy that it's finally going to get done for the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Aguirre.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just really quickly, I want to express my full support for this, for the item under 3.3. And thank you, Vice Chair LaCava, for your expert perspective on how things can take place when it comes to construction and unforeseen circumstances. This Complete Streets promenade is going to be incredibly important to the community, to the business community. It's a thriving community. It'll make streets safer. And, I just want to quickly give a shout out to City of San Diego and Mayor Gloria for ensuring that this project gets completed. I'm very much looking forward to its completion so that we can celebrate Pride next year there and with a Complete Streets project. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Molina.
Thank you, Chair Huebner. I do support item 3.3, and I'm very happy with the comments, especially calling it a complete streets project. That's a fantastic way to characterize it because it isn't just a bike project. And I don't mean to cut the flow in the discussion for 3.3, but my comment is actually about 3.5. I just want to highlight for the board the fact that the Audit Committee is very excited to welcome new members. We will very soon have a full list of committee members now. I was part of the steering committee, and I just want to give out a shout out to my colleagues who made up that interview panel. That was Ms. Agnes Wong Nickerson and also Mr. Scott Brickner from the Airport Authority was kind enough to join us and lend support. We also had fantastic support from staff, and the process went smoothly, even though it did take a long time to get us to the candidate pool. Once we did, it was smooth and it went terrific, and I can't wait to welcome these new members and report back once we do have new members onto the Audit Committee. Thank you very much.
And their resumes were really impressive. So good job, you guys. And thank you also, Chair Fisher. Yes. Final speaker is Councilmember Contreras.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I just want to say for back to the bike project, this, I really look at it as street modernization. And I think Mayor Sanchez, you even used the word modern. And one of the things that I'm wondering is to be able to detect things underground. There was the mention of radar. I don't know if there's other technologies like, is this ground penetrating radar? Are there other types of radar where we can have more accurate depictions of what might be underground so that, are these just investments that we need to make in better technologies?
We personally don't own the equipment. We hire what we call the right-of-way section, and they go and detect existing utilities, and they do have the most state-of-the-art either normally it's potholing based on the existing utility maps, but then we also go with radar to try to detect that. There are other methodologies. We try to get the companies that have the most updated technology, but sometimes it's just very hard, right? In another complete streets project, we found a abandoned piece of railroad that it's historic in San Diego, that nobody was there and none of the equipment was able to pick up because it was so deep. It was probably 100 years in there. So we do try to do our best and keep a track with the most updated technology that's available.
Is that part of the scoring rubric for RFPs? Or, I think I don't want to belabor this point here, but I just want to flag it as, is there some more oversight that we can have to ensure that the best technologies are being utilized so that we can capture as much information as possible so that we can avoid multi-million-dollar budget differences? That's the question that I'm putting out there, and I would love in the future to maybe dive deeper into that question, because I'm just curious about that component.
That's a good point. And look, we are working on the scope of work for our future architecture and engineering on-calls. So we can work on that. Clint and his team are working on the scope of work and the different criteria. So we'll make sure that we put a little bit on that on the utilities ID of who are the best companies based on not just on experience but technology.
Yeah, because you can have all the experience in the world, but you're not going to know that something's there if you're utilizing technology that technology is something that is continuously, especially in our little flicker of time where we're at right now, it's just accelerating so drastically. So if we can have state-of-the-art technology, I understand that it probably wouldn't be financially prudent for us to own it unless maybe there's a rental system, right? Other municipalities want to rent this equipment. I don't know. But I think that we could potentially have a little bit more oversight on the contractors to ensure that the best technology is being utilized, because I have a hard time believing that state-of-the-art technology is not able to detect some of these things. It's just it is mind-boggling to me that we're running into that issue. And I just want to dig deeper into that. But that, again, I would love to have a discussion at a further time and maybe looking at scope of work, RFPs, what we want to have in there. The other question that I have is what amount of funding or part of the budget is stormwater when we're modernizing streets and creating complete streets? Is that a heavy component of it because of stormwater runoff and basins and stuff like that?
It varies project by project, council member. It's one is what you're doing with your scope. How deep is it going? Which existing facilities are you impacting? Are you increasing the sheet flow and therefore increasing the capacity? So I cannot pin down a specific number because it could be us leave it as is and don't even touch it to redo it because it's too old, or we are increasing the width of the roadway, therefore we are increasing the sheet flow on it, and the queue is going to increase, and therefore we need to get a bigger diameter of a system. So there's so many.
Yeah, there's a lot of different variables. Okay, I was just curious about that because as the climate crisis continues and our climate changes, we're going to see more and more extreme weather events like flooding. And I would assume that, state code would probably continue to be updated and there'd be more burden on infrastructure to match rainfall events, right? So we can prevent flooding and stuff like that. So bioswales, all these different types of things that can be integrated. Just curious if that, tends to push the budget higher on these projects.
Yes, and the first step that we're doing as industry here at SANDAG, but also Caltrans and others in the private sector, is we're having the the climate and the resiliency conversations, where we're identifying what climate change is doing and how maybe the cues in the future, maybe a 100-year storm may not be the design factor. It may be a higher factor. All those things are actually being discussed also for emergency situations, as fires are becoming more common. And then you could add an array of features there, from the emergency evacuations to the sustainability of the existing facilities.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, thank you so much. Yeah, it's always good to build when we're spending this type of money to build projects to be resilient in the face of a lot of uncertain events that could happen. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Moreno.
I would like to make a comment about item 3.3, the Uptown Bikeway. The Easterly Hillcrest Bikeway project is going to bring to fruition a project that has been in the Uptown Community Plan since 1988. And the community has advocated for this for the past 30 years. The project, as was stated, is already 60% complete and will deliver amenities like the Pride Plaza with North America's first rainbow bike lane, which we're very proud of in the city of San Diego. And it will be home to the weekly farmers market for all the small businesses, trying to make some money here. So overall, this project will increase mobility, it will enhance public space, and also it will help meet our regional mobility goals. Now on item 3.5, which is the audit appointment, I do want to acknowledge the work that has led to the successful appointment of 3 new members within this committee. Kudos to Chair Fisher and also the screening committee for your work in support of a full audit committee. As the chair of the audit committee at the City of San Diego, I do understand how important it is to recruit audit committee members. The audit committee plays a role in strengthening public trust and also leading with good governance. So to Mr. Foyer, Mr. Giordano, and Mr. Stevenson, I think the resumes speak for themselves. I was very pleased also to see the range of local and global work experience across both the private and the public sector. So thank you for lending your expertise to SANDAG and for your willingness to serve the San Diego region. They are volunteers after all, right? So I'm looking forward to the audit committee's work to ensure transparency and effective governance here. And also big kudos to Courtney Ruby for your work. She's still doing a phenomenal job, and happy to support the motion on the floor. Thank you.
Very good. With that, we have a motion by LaCava, second by Sanchez. Please use your devices to vote. That passes unanimously. All right, we're now on to the OME item, and we're going to start with Mario.
This is a little bit of what I was discussing. CTC approved the funding. The team has been working on moving with the next package will be the delivery of the passenger vehicles facility that will bring in close to 60% of the revenue. This is northbound passenger vehicles, and it would minimize or almost reduce to nominal any amount of bonding that we would need to do at the beginning phase. As the team is setting up, yes, we found underground things many years ago on this. And if you go to the Natural History Museum, they said that the holy grail of fossils was found under this project. It was in the middle of COVID. I was the corridor director at that time, which is what Nikki's doing. And I got a phone call and they said, hey, we found something. So I put my mask and everything and went, and the paleontologists were going, oh my God, we've never found this type of fossils on the US side in San Diego, and it's an exhibit in the Natural History Museum. There were some rats, there were some coyotes, but really millions of years old. No, it wasn't a dinosaur. Nikki will have more details, but I do, like a good engineer, I went in, I said, when the hell you guys going to get out? Because this is going to cost me a lot of money in delays. And they said, put your seatbelts and sit down, kiddo, because it's going to be months. And it was months, but we were able to work around and actually pave State Route 11. And I'll pass it on to Andrea, Nikki, Ali, and Clint.
Yes, they did find some mastodons and some camels. So that was quite an interesting journey. And we're here to continue the journey. And we're here today to request for the Board of Directors to authorize Chief Executive Officer Mario Orso to execute the Construction Services Agreement Amendment 1 and award Word Package 2 for the Otay Mesa East Port of Entry project. This Word Package 2 is valued at $184,226,341, and the overall duration for construction services is 3 years. With me here today are Border Region Delivery Manager Andrea Hoff and Principal Design Engineer Ali DeVoe, Clint Pease, and I'm Nikki Tianco for Caltrans. Ali and Andrea will present to you the scope of the work in more detail, but before I hand it to them, I'd like to give you a brief history of this project. The State Route 11 Otay Mesa East Port of Entry project has been in development since the early 2000s, when Caltrans completed a project study report in 2003, and SANDAG first studied the economic impacts of the border delays in 2006. The study revealed that long wait times were resulting in severe economic losses for the region, the state, and the nation, estimated to be equivalent to losing 18 Super Bowls and 5 Qualcomm companies each year. In 2008, a feasibility study was done by U.S. General Services Administration, GSA. It showed that even with an expansion of existing border crossings, a new port was needed to meet future demand. In 2016, construction began on the surrounding transportation network. And just last year, Siempre Viva, the last interchange and the last link to this Otay Mesa East border region, opened to the public. Construction of the port of entry itself started soon after that. Construction of the underground utilities, fine grading, procurement of long lead items such as inspection booths, they're ongoing. This work will be completed in October. What this means is that there's about 20 miles of trench work, placing 30,000 linear feet of gravity pipe and 50,000 linear feet of pressure pipe. This is an aerial photo of what is out there today. As you can see, the project is taking its shape. This was just recently taken at the site a couple of weeks ago. With that, I'm going to pass this on to Andrea to talk about funding and construction phasing.
Thank you, Nikki. Good morning, board members. I'd like to provide an overview of the project's financial plan. Before I begin, I would like to highlight a recent accomplishment that the team was able to achieve. I'm sure you may recall us discussing some of our binational agreements, and there were 2 that were pending signature, and we recently got all parties to sign those agreements. So I just wanted to highlight that accomplishment. The financial plan, as you can see here, hinges on future bond proceeds to leverage significant state and federal dollars. Of the $1.4 billion total corridor project, we've spent a bit more than half of the pie you see here on the roadway, interchanges, connectors, site preparation, and utilities. Those pictures you just saw, shown by Nikki. We're now under construction on the actual port of entry. In September of last year, we requested authorization to proceed with the first work package, that deep utility package, which is now under construction. And we're here today to take the next step and request authorization for a second work package. We're also here to provide an update on our phasing strategy for the project. As with other projects at SANDAG, the agency is looking for ways to accelerate project delivery and maximize existing resources to deliver projects. This often requires pivoting and responding to dynamic conditions, changes in the economy, funding sources, and changing socio-political contexts. The phasing plan we present today is an example of this strategy in action. Specifically, the current work package, which Ali will detail, takes the funding we have in hand, the remainder of 2 large grants which were secured for the project, one federal infra grant and one state TCEP grant, to fully build out the northbound passenger facility. And I'd like to tell you a little bit more about this phasing strategy and the rationale for it. This slide shows projected toll revenue, the split among the different project elements: cargo northbound, passenger northbound, and southbound cargo and southbound passenger. As you can see, and these numbers are derived from our investment grade traffic and revenue study, that more than half of the projected revenue, more than 64% in this estimate, is derived from passenger vehicles. The main reason for that is the sheer volume of passenger vehicles that we would anticipate. By focusing on the passenger facility, we can fully fund and open this first phase, again delivering on a critical part of the project. We think this will improve our ability to sell bonds in the future because we'll have a proof of concept and revenue stream, making the project more attractive to investors. Mario mentioned the recent CTC action, which allocated, it was at their June meeting, and we're very grateful to the CTC and Caltrans for their work on this and their acceptance of this course of action, and look forward to a discussion around this delivery strategy today. We believe a focus on northbound passenger will help accelerate the larger, more costly cargo facility, not only because it can improve our ability to sell bonds, but also because some of the work on northbound passenger has dual use and will serve the future cargo facility as well. With that, I'll pass it to Ali to go into details about construction work package number 2.
Thank you, Andrea and Nikki, and good morning, board members. So as a reminder to the board, this construction contract is a construction manager general contractor, or CMGC, delivery method. So this delivery method allowed us to bring the contractor on board early and select them based on qualifications. We brought them on board while we were still working on design, and that allowed us to reduce overall risk to the project by collaborating with them during the design process and getting constructability feedback. We also negotiate the costs for each element of work with them throughout the project. We're able to identify ways to accelerate and control the project schedule. And most importantly, it allows us to pivot in the way we are delivering the project, and allows us to react in real time to constraints and opportunities, and deliver project in phases, as Andrea described. I want to take a minute to recap the steps to get to this action today. So back in October of 2023, the board adopted the resolution authorizing the use of CMGC for this project. We solicited the project in June of 2024 and awarded pre-construction services in January of last year. In September of last year, the board authorized the award of the construction services agreement and work package 1. Now, I want to note that construction services agreement is the master contract for all of construction of the entire port of entry project. So all the phases we're talking about today. And then we award that work in work packages. We started with work package 1 in October of 2025. and we initiated negotiations on work package 2 in March of this year. We reached an agreed to price in May, and we're bringing it before you today for approval. I want to talk a little bit about the scope of work for this construction work package. So as mentioned, this is all work required to open northbound passenger vehicles crossing facilities to traffic. So this includes 7 passenger vehicle lanes, the main building head house, which is the building that operates the entire northbound facilities, primary and secondary inspection facilities. With this contract, we will pierce the secondary and primary border wall. So we'll be installing the gates and the permanent features there. We'll also have various support buildings and site structures that are necessary to support operations. Again, the contract value is $184,226,341, and that is about 0.75% higher than our independent cost estimate. As I mentioned, we negotiate each of these packages with our contractor. So I wanted to walk through that process a little bit. So March 20th of this year, we initiated that process by issuing the plans and specifications for this work package to the contractor and asking them to develop a price. They then went in, sent that to subcontractors to get bids and received those bids in April. And we received their initial price proposal on April 23rd. Of this year. We performed several reconciliation workshops with the contractor and our engineers to reach an agreed to price, and then an agreed to price was reached on May 19th. So these next few slides provide a high-level overview of not only this phase of the project, but the bigger picture of the whole port of entry. So highlighted in the middle is the northbound passenger vehicle facilities. As Andrea mentioned, we're delivering this project in phases, and we kind of envision this in 3 main phases. So the first being phase 1, the northbound vehicle traffic in the middle of the screen. Phase 2, we envision to be northbound cargo. So that is highlighted in green on the right of your screen. And the third would be the southbound facilities, both passenger and cargo, and that's highlighted in blue on the left of your screen. Within each of these phases, there can be multiple work packages. So, for example, we can issue work packages for technology components, foundations, buildings, etc. Future work packages will be brought before this board for approval as they are funded and negotiated. So, as an example, work package 1 provided grading and utilities for most of the site, and then work package 2 is now installing that infrastructure to open to traffic for northbound facilities. So this is looking from the south, looking north from Mexico. And then this is the opposite direction, looking south towards Mexico with the Siempre Viva Bridge in the lower left-hand corner. And then this is a closer look at really the heartbeat of the northbound passenger facilities. So we have the primary inspection booths in the foreground and the main building head house on the left of the screen with the secondary inspection facilities. So next steps, pending board approval, SANDAG will award work package 2 to Atkins & Clark, a joint venture, via a contract amendment to the construction services agreement incorporating the scope of work. And then we will begin construction on work package 2 when we anticipate to commence construction by the end of this month. And the requested action is that the board of directors is asked to authorize the chief executive officer to award and execute work package 2. And that concludes our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's first go to the public comments, and then we'll go to board discussion and questions. Michael?
Yes, for our public comment for item 4, we have 3 in person and we have 4 online. First is Truth, followed by Cesar Javier. This is item 4.
A Committee on Binational Opportunities member once asked, what happens if CARB's demand of shippers is that they buy new, inefficient, and expensive electric big rig trucks, which may force some shippers to stop using California for entry? A SANDAG staffer claimed there wouldn't be an effect until 15 to 20 years later. No evidence for that, but that would mean this toll project would lose money by year 15. No brains. We've had zero transparency, 100% lies from staff. Last time, Suhasini and Andrea talked in circles about the tech contract. Andrea said the OMI toll will cost what people are willing to pay, but that's not what Maria in the news said.
As demand grows, we'll be able to grow to 25 cargo lanes and 20 passenger lanes. card thresholds will range from $10 to $50 depending on demand.
Is that your expectation, or is there something different we should know? Attachment 1 contains omissions. Example, avoiding cost increases did not happen when it came to building and then ripping up the SR-11. There has still yet to be a SANDAG, Caltrans, or federal study revealing the effects of a sheer volume of increased car pollution, nor a study revealing the effects of increased development on sewage infrastructure, density impacts, and road maintenance. And even when SB 10 was introduced to maybe give a couple leftover pennies 30 years from now to maybe clean some sewage, Manny and her buddy Padilla hijacked the bill and killed it to continue the Mexico First agenda at SANDAG, hence why she was in Mexico on July 4th. How much land were the cities of Coronado and 70-year-old Imperial Beach gifted for environmental mitigation? IB's birds sure would love to have some clean water to drink, maybe the children too. What happened to Nora's fake working group to address environmental issues in 2024? Can we make that like the YOP pilot program and fund it by millions of dollars forever so that you guys don't follow any of your own policies? What else more beneficial to actual San Diego County residents, not Mexicans, could this $1.4 billion plus have purchased? How about a much bigger electrified border wall? The cartel just shot and tried to kill a San Diego woman, but y'all want to make cartel Mexico rich, right?
Next is Cesar Javier, followed by allegedly Audra. This is item 4.
Too heavy for us public. The lest and the hurt. Value analysis for 2 minutes. Physical development versus the neighboring demographics, geographic crisis, pollution crisis. What can you say, Councilor Lacaba? Councilor Vivian Moreno being the front line, being District 8, front line of the city of San Diego. We would like to hear the say of the Honorable Mayor and the other 11 elected officials. Why do you allow this construction when you haven't done the priority solutions for the sick and dying? Correct, Ma'am? Supervisor Aguirre? Sick and dying, you declared that January 2024. Nora Vargas has declared crisis 2024, December, before she stepped down. What have we done, sirs, Ms. Dames? Development or physical development, business, money-making versus saving the lives of the sick and dying. Come on. Urban planning, the centerpiece is man. Health, safety, welfare, so we could produce a modern society. What can you say, Madam Chair? Modern society. Solana Beach has also a problem on how to protect.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Next is allegedly Audra, followed by Paul the Bold online.
Talk about the love of money is the root of all evil. You guys are so willing to sell out the people of Imperial Beach that have been suffering for decades. Oh, what are we going to do about it? Oh my gosh, I just wish the federal government would help us. Oh my gosh, we're going to fix this. No, you're not. You're more concerned about the $60 billion of commerce that comes through the port. And it's like, these people are suffering. Imagine the billions of dollars that could potentially go to help them, but instead let's collect data on them, let them keep suffering so that we can, collect the information. I'm pretty sure there's decades of information that you don't need to continue to study. And it's so sad because it's like, what about the other port of entry where there was a tunnel that was dug directly underneath and they went so far deep that the sensors were bypassed? And I understand that there's certain things that are happening right now, but there is a very high chance that a tunnel is being dug directly under the port of entry that you guys are constructing. And it makes me wonder if, when we don't want to, talk about those things, who's complicit in that? you know, Puta Paloma, who knows, Mario. It's like you guys don't want to address certain things, but it's like those are things that take place, and these people have been suffering for decades. And what a slap in the face to act like you care. Instead, you're gaslighting them. I mean, like, what are we going to do? We're going to fix it. We will eventually. You're sure as hell are making sure this goes through, right? I mean, it's like you guys act like you have all these constraints. Oh, we can't do it because of this. No, you're just choosing not to. You're making a choice for the money over the people's lives. And they should see that. That's why people need to pay attention to see that they are being sold out for a port of entry when they could be getting help, but instead it's not lucrative enough. It's just better to collect data and see how long we can go. Maybe in a few more decades, those people will get help, or they'll just...
Thank you. Next is Paula Bold online, followed by Blair Beekman.
Paula Bold, thanks for calling on me. Table 2 in the discussion memo says that 361 million of the 1 billion construction cost is unfinanced. That is huge. That is not good. In fact, in this time of uncertain contracts and clawbacks, it is not acceptable. And I think SANDAG should reject this amendment on that basis alone. Now, the presentation, slide 6. Almost a quarter of your money is coming from future bonds. The financial markets, including the desirability of bonds, are always changing. So, is this realistic today? I mean, the swings up and down are increasing in intensity. Also, I wonder why the state is slated to provide 30% of the funding in view of its deficit. Slide 7. I think that the disparity in total revenue between northbound and southbound traffic is ridiculous. Do you really expect a country with a lower standard of living to provide 5 1/3 times the revenue? Slide 10. Don't know why you looked at competition with qualification-based selection. That's it. But good luck rejecting this. Thanks.
Next is Blair Beekman, followed by phone number ending in 8813.
Hi, Blair Beekman. Wow, I have a lot to say for this item. I guess you guys have all heard the recent stories on KPBS and other places that a council person in Tijuana has been checking out Oceanside and their pure water program and wants to be starting something to the program, wants to bring it around Tijuana. I think I'm not so much for pure water as drinking water, but as water that can help the Tijuana River system, it's, I think, an awesome idea. And I think it would help a lot. And SANDAG has done such a great job in trying to keep up good communication with Mexico that it's just indicative of what working on this project can be developing in all the ways to develop things. Thanks to the words of DRA and how to be prioritizing our things. And I think we can be doing same 2 or 3 things at once. And it's learning to have those conversations with Mexico that's really important. The future of the technology for this port area is really important. Having those technology conversations, sharing conversations of technology, I think would just bring yourselves better and better practices and as part of a process of communication that I think is so vital to this project and how we work on it together. Mario has been trying to talk about he needs better technology dialogue from the U.S. federal level, from the federal level, about their part in the technology process. They're being a bit, overly national security secretive, and it's bothering Mario. It's making him uncomfortable. He's asking how they can be more open a bit. So, working tech accountability ideas is really important for this project and develops many other projects in the area. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is phone number ending in 8813, followed by our last public comment, Gambler. (8813), you're self-muted. Phone number 8813. All right, we will go to the last public comment, Gambler. Gambler, go ahead.
Hey, how you guys doing? Can you hear me this time?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, perfect. I just got a note from the county of San Diego basically stating that they do not do any checks on non-citizens in our voter roll. Saying that, and I know we haven't been doing it since 2015, none of you guys are elected, all of you are selected. I would highly think about your decisions, because I know that the county is playing stupid games, trying to go ahead and say confidential information, when all I'm just asking is, what file do you butt up against what file? That's not confidential information. That is, hey, we're allowing more non-citizens to vote in our elections than we are allowing citizens. We are protecting them. We are making sure that their vote gets counted. And anyone who wants to go ahead and vote for them can. That being said, let's just say you happen to know a non-citizen or you see one on the voter rolls that voted. Turn it into ICE. Matter of fact, if you want to be such a complete dick, which is highly illegal, and I suggest don't do it, register a non-citizen, vote for them, and then turn them into ICE. Because apparently this is all okay with the registrar of voters, all okay with the county of San Diego, as long as we keep the elected officials in play and be able to waste our money any way that they see fit. Now, under NVRA regulation subsection 8, it says reasonable effort. My question to everyone, is doing nothing a reasonable effort?
Topic, please.
That's what we do.
This is item number 4.
I understand that, and you guys are elected officials making these decisions in an election that is not certifiable. Do you understand that? You guys are stealing our money because you robbed your way into office. And you refuse to go ahead and give back our
Thank you. Your
voices
time
to
has
the
expired. Going back to phone number 8813. Give you opportunity to comment. You're still self-muted.
Thank you, Michael. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Can you hear me? Okay, great. Okay, so I'm Swallow here, and I just wanted to, I was just going to listen in to this whole meeting, but wow, it's just between the consent calendar 3.3 and this item, it's just more proof of how the selected officials, you guys, work for the globalists and not for the people. You continue to waste the money, continue to waste the time, continue to, contribute to this new, I'll just say it, this new world order. And it did, to some of you, you're just kind of like probably giggling in your head, like Lisa Hebner was giggling at one of the speakers who had serious concerns about voting. It's not funny because you're messing around with the future of humanity and you're contributing to, this manipulation and trying to, be a part. You are not trying to, you are being a part of setting up something that is entirely against what everybody can take place. Like with these bike lanes, those are not equitable. Not everybody can use them. Honestly, like at this point, it's unbelievable that some of you, you have absolutely no conscience, and it's just, you don't even try to understand or look into things like the United Nations Agenda 21, things like that. These people who come in concerned about, things. It's just a nano fraction of the county that are paying attention. And it's like I said before, broken fucking record. It's infuriating. And I had no.
Thank you. Your time has expired. That concludes our public comment on this item, Chair.
Thanks, Michael. Yes, Mario.
I just want to make a point of comment. On page 42 of the agenda package, there's a typo, and I just want to highlight it before anything else keeps going on. On the funding package, the construction capital is not 1 million, it's 1 billion. And we apologize. The sum amount is correct. Somebody forgot a couple of zeros there, and we totally apologize of that. Thank you, Don, for picking that up right now. So anyway, just wanted to highlight that.
Thank you. Important correction. All right, we're going to board comments. We're going to start with Mayor Duncan.
Thank you. I appreciate the work done on this and the staff report. You know, I am a supporter of trade in general and commerce, and supporter of trade with Mexico, which has become our largest trading partner, and vice versa. My concern with this staff report and this project today, I know some members of the board weren't here back when we took one of the votes, but it does not mention, and it appears to me that we've had zero progress in regard to something that we attached to one of the votes approving this project, which was some things dealing with the environment in regard to the Tijuana River environmental crisis. And when I read the report, and if I miss something, please correct me. Obviously, I'm looking for it, you know, and I get to the environmental mitigation, and I learn interesting things like we have passively relocated the burrowing owls, which I was really curious how we did that. And how we did that was by giving them a one-way door. So I hope my wife never passively relocates me by changing the locks on my house. But but seriously, though, I will say this is one area, because I am been a very big supporter of you, Mario. As you know, I think you've done a wonderful job coming into what you came into, and regardless, you've done a very good job. But this is the one area where I have been very disappointed that there hasn't been any communication. It seems, you know, there was concerns raised by the board. I know there was some language passed in one of the motions that addressed this issue. We don't get an update on it here. We don't get an update on it otherwise. It seems like nothing's happened. There was a potentially companion, so to speak, not literally, but at the same time, a bill put forth in the state to potentially have some revenue come from tolls or otherwise, and that was watered down to become an inconsequential nothing bill. So obviously, I'll say this one last thing, I'll stop talking about it, but I would like it to be addressed, if you can, Mario, to us. The issue to me is very clear when I talk to the U.S. Trade Representative. You know, the USMCA did exactly what they thought they would do. The USMCA massively increased trade between Mexico and the United States. And again, we became each other's biggest trading partners. They knew that was going to happen. Well, they also knew it was going to increase sewage and that we already had a crisis. How do we know that? Because they put in the USMCA $300 million as an attempt to start to address the crisis, even though that money didn't get to the USIBWC for multiple years until just 2 years ago. But in any event, I feel the same way when I look at this project. This project will increase commerce, as it states, you know, tons of Super Bowls and Qualcomm-sized companies every year. So what's that going to do? That's definitely going to increase the sewage coming out of Tijuana. That's just a fact, in my opinion. And to have zero comment on it or zero progress, I understand your job is to push projects forward, and I respect that you're good at it. I think you are good at it. But this is truly an environmental crisis, and I wish we would have had some progress or some update. I know it kind of morphed and we're doing into an environmental committee. I don't want to speak for you. I'll let you talk, but that is my issue when I look at this, the major impact on all areas, including some of the poorest areas of San Diego. Thank you. Imperial Beach and Coronado, of course, as well.
Sure. Thank you for the question. What we've been working on is with the Mexican government on multiple agreements. The Mexican government needs to decide how they're going to manage the project on their side. I'm going to talk kind of twofold. One, I think Nikki opened up. I'm going to go back a little bit. Nikki opened up on the 2006 economic impact study, right? And what came out about the Super Bowls, the Qualcomms. That really allowed the leadership at that time, both at SANDAG and Caltrans, to carry a conversation of why things needed to happen. It gave objective information and not just pursuing something. I think that I know that we're doing right now our resiliency plan that we're doing together with Caltrans, like a border environmental master plan that focus on transportation, but it's also looking at higher level things. I know the county is doing an array of issues with the ongoing environmental issue of the Tijuana River. As it relates to this project, I think the conversation that needs to happen in the bilateral agenda, and the seed has been planted, is bringing in all that objective information, bringing up and quantifying that at the federal government, probably the governments are doing a lot right now, but now there also needs to be done something at the local levels, especially on the Mexican side, for what you bring up, the growing and past infrastructure that needs to be done, right? The garbage issue that affects also the Tijuana River, it's handled by the municipality. The water infrastructure and sewer infrastructure within the city is handled by the state. So what we planted the seed with the Mexican federal government, it's saying, look, what we are doing on the U.S. side is we're reinvesting the funds in this project for our infrastructure here, right? The legislation for State Route 11 has a lockbox pretty much that the funds cannot go anywhere else but reinvested within the corridor. So what we have proposed to our Mexican partners is a structure similar where they can handle and grow that growth responsibly. That has been put up. We have brought it up, and we have ongoing conversations on that. With the change of the national administration, they're the ones who are going to control the concession of the project on their side. So therefore, they're the ones who need to consider or make the decision if this is going to happen. And we are also bringing it up. I have had meetings with the mayor of Tijuana. I have had meetings with the state of Baja, where I have urged them to request that the funding at the federal level also triggers down from this project to reinvest on the infrastructure in Tijuana that will kind of cascade into improvements into not just their roadway system, but also their different infrastructure like sewer. So those are the discussions we've been having. We've been actively having those discussions. That's where it is. The Mexican government hasn't made a decision, but we've been actively planting the seed and also at the same time generating those working tables to highlight this issue. That's what I can tell you I've been working on.
And I appreciate that. Just a brief reply, if I may, Chair. I'm familiar with all those, and I work on all those issues at the federal level, and I talk to the IBWC, and there's Minute 333 from last December where the mapping and the full study of the Tijuana city infrastructure, all those different things, and outfall pipe, everything that's in the last 2-minute orders as well, and everything. But before recently, just a few years ago, or maybe even 2 years ago, many agreements we had with Mexico on this issue were not being followed by Mexico. And so they've started to be, some of them be followed, but a lot of them are optional. But that really highlights my entire point, right? I appreciate everything you're doing. I urge you to keep doing it. But the problem I have that I've highlighted with this agreement is the massive increase in commerce, the massive increase in the need for sewage treatment, and no binding agreements whatsoever to address any of that on any level, from whether it's federal, state, county, but particularly SANDAG. There is no actual commitment that's been agreed to do anything about this. It's going to create a lot of money and a lot of revenue for Mexico and a lot of money and revenue for the United States, and nothing is literally zero for handling this environmental crisis is included. And also, again, the last point is the part of whatever we were going to do, like I think it is not appropriate that we don't have that language in the timeline that we agreed to as a board and passed, the language of what we were going to do with whatever that environmental committee or whatever you call it, mitigation thing. I haven't heard anything about it in over 6 months, if not close to a year. So those are my issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Fisher.
Thank you, Chair. I echo Mayor Duncan's sentiments. I do have a question, though. What's the projected opening of the northbound lanes?
Late 2028, October, November 2028 is what we're looking at.
Just for reference, I think that once we hit that, Imperial Beach's southern beaches would be closed for over 2,000 days. I get so frustrated when I listen to Otay Mesa East because I see the project, I see the progress, and I'm so super excited about it because I think it's a historic moment, not only for SANDAG, but I also think for San Diego County, for the agreements between Mexico and the United States. It's taken a lot to get to this point, and it's going to take a lot more to get over the finish line. But again, I can't negate the fact that we continue to hear updates of progress in the building and the construction. We listen to the binational agreements that are signed. I've lived in Imperial Beach for over 50 years now. And I can tell you what, it's still the best town that I've ever visited in my entire life that I've lived in. I sit around, I look at this board, I've got Councilmember Moreno, who lived down in the South Bay, Supervisor Aguirre, who lives in Imperial Beach, a couple blocks away from me, Mayor Duncan. We have continued to fight and to look into every option to beat this. We continue to get beat over the head. Mexico always wants to show up when there's agreements to be signed that benefits them. And again, I won't make a huge thing but with this whole crisis going on, what they did? They built a huge highway that's in full view of all of our cities to see. I'm sorry, they're not a great partner for us. They have not been. They will not be, because there's no implications that make it so that they have to be. They will not do it willingly. They need to be compelled. Mayor Duncan talked about SB 10, that was kind of that ill-fated bill that got watered down and got dismissed, which I can't figure out. And in a green state like California, you think everybody up in Sacramento would be interested in fixing a huge, probably the largest environmental crisis this country has ever seen on the West Coast. But no, got watered down, thrown out, nothing to hold Mexico accountable. We've asked, from Imperial Beach, we've asked, that the USMCA hold Mexico accountable, that we look at closing commercial routes from southbound to northbound through our borders until this gets fixed. I don't see why we don't look at that from the Otay Mesa East project to limit, anything that's going to come past there. I know that it's going to be commercial cars first, but passenger cars and commercial will come later. But we've got to do something. This board unanimously agreed that we are all on board to do something. Nothing's really been done. We've had conversations, we've had meetings, and we're still in the same place. I spent the 4th of July hanging out on the beach in Imperial Beach looking at the surf. I hope that those of you who went to the beach or the bay or whatever you might have done that may have been water related in your communities or wherever you may have traveled, you're able to enter the water safely without fear of getting sick. And your children, your grandchildren, your neighbors, whoever it was there, they had that opportunity too. Imperial Beach, we don't have it. We had an entire beach filled with probably 10,000 people, maybe 6 or 8 kids frolicking in the ocean. I'm sure that in Oceanside, it probably looked a lot different. I'm sure in Coronado, there was still a lot of concern because of the reports, the pictures, and everything that's been shared. So I just want to echo the comments of Mayor Duncan, and that we need to, whenever we have updates on the progress of the construction, that I would appreciate an update on the progress of solving this environmental crisis. This has been a big part of Imperial Beach's negative history. I don't want it to be sitting here in a couple more years or wherever I might be in a couple more years, not talking about more businesses dying, but we're going to talk about people actually dying. People are getting sick. It's founded. Supervisor Gary has been a great proponent in getting those studies done in the survey, so I appreciate that. But I just don't want it to get to that point. So I would appreciate just getting reports on the update of the mitigation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Chavez.
I can't express enough how concerning this issue is to Chula Vista as well, and I appreciate the sentiment in your words. This is a devastating crisis that we're living in, and no beaches should be closed. I want to be strongly mention strongly how devastating this has been for a region. With that being said, I don't believe in stopping progress of a project that has been since 2000 in the making and progress. The reason we have 100,000 people crossing the border every single day, and well, that's just cars, but we have another 2.4 million in the blue line crossing monthly, is because we have a workforce, because we have students, because we have tourism. And as I said previously, I used to work in D3 in the city of San Diego. And with that, if many of you know, has a lot of the bids, the business improvement districts in District 3. And when COVID hit and when we actually didn't allow tourism to cross the tourism visas from Mexico to the US, I actually heard from all the business improvement districts that they were bleeding millions a week. So we need this tourism. We need this. We don't have housing for a lot of the people that decide to go live to Mexico. So we're not in, I just want to be mindful that we fully understand that because there is an issue going on, we can't kill another project that was in the making way before everything happened. And I understand, and it concerns us deeply, and it hurts me deeply when we can't use our beaches. I just want to be mindful moving forward. I am supporting this item today because in my mind, we can't affect and kill a project because we have something else going on. This has been worked on for many years, and it's going to alleviate and it's going to make and create a better life and take away contamination, existing contamination for 3-hour wait times off our region that's adding to what we already have. So I'm passionate about supporting this, and I'm willing to move it.
Very good. That's a motion. Supervisor Aguirre, would you be willing to second this motion before comments?
Sure. But I do want to make some comments.
Of course.
You know, the statistics don't lie, right? We're talking about 120,000 people crossing San Isidro Norte, 2,000 commercial vehicles crossing northbound daily, 50,000 jobs, $60 billion in annual cross-border trade. But at the end of the day, we continue to suffer. And I want to be very clear, this is not just an environmental crisis. This is a public health emergency, full stop. Beyond the beach closure days, which have been devastating to the South Bay economy, where people are losing thousands, if not millions of dollars in lost revenue because of those beach closures, we have tens of thousands of families that are breathing in toxic gases, toxic chemicals. Every single day, we have 30 to 40 million gallons of untreated industrial and residential waste not being captured by any sewage treatment plant, neither on the Mexican side nor on the American side. And even with the efforts that Mayor Duncan mentioned and the $650 million that were secured through our collective efforts to expand the International Wastewater Treatment Plant, that's still not going to be enough. That is still not going to be enough. There's going to be 10 million gallons of uncollected sewage. And by 2040, the city of Tijuana will have grown 40%. So we need to address this in how we speak about this, how we move forward in our plans. to your point about the environmental task force, yeah, I agree. I would love to hear more about that and have ongoing updates. And yes, the efforts to work with Mexico to see if their federal government, the funding of what they're benefiting from trickles down to infrastructure that they have control over. We shouldn't stop those advocacy efforts. But there was such a missed opportunity to redirect the funds that we collect here, that Mexican businesses benefit from their trade, importing products and goods into the United States, that could have been set aside for a fund to fund infrastructure, to capture the remainder of what's flowing freely through our South Bay communities right now. And when I was on the council in Imperial Beach, we passed a resolution. At my request, Senator Padilla put forward legislation that would unlock the state law that you're referring to, Mario, that prevents us from expending resources outside of roadways and what they're intended to. Sadly, it was watered down and it died. It died. But that was done even before this board had taken the initial action to decide on this project. So I'll support the project, but I want to make sure that we continue to highlight the need and not minimize it, because this trade will have direct impacts on the communities now, not just of the South Bay, but of all of San Diego County. We now have empirical evidence that aerosols are making their way all the way to Del Mar, La Jolla, and all of North County beaches. This is not just an environmental crisis. This is not just a coastal access crisis. This is a public health emergency. And for us to not address it as such in how we speak about it, how we manage the resources that a different country is benefiting from is such a missed opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. I want you just to acknowledge the faces on everybody around this board table. You know, we get it. We're very upset about it too. If staff could remind me, we did take an action to include some language, and if I recall correctly, the language was that we would do what we could. Was there more to that language, Mayor Duncan? Could you please refresh our memory?
You know, that's part of my problem. I don't think I should have to refresh our memory. I think that should have been in the staff report and we should have been getting updates on it. But we definitely had a creation of an entity. I don't know what it was going to be called.
Right, yeah.
It was going to be working specifically on this issue.
And that's not, we don't have the entity?
Not to my knowledge. And, you know, can I just have 10 seconds to say something?
Yeah. Please.
Just an example, because I understand this is an incredibly complex issue, but sometimes the complexity, you know, causes nothing to happen. I'll just give you one example that I think is incredibly simple. At Punta Banderas or San Antonio de los Buenos, Mexico's federal government, built a sewage treatment plant partially at the insistence of this board indirectly 3 years ago. They came in and they built it. It was a little bit late. They got it done. It's treating 50% of the sewage or less that goes to that facility. The rest of it, 6 miles south of our border, comes straight out of the canyon wall onto the beach and into the ocean. There's video, it's factual. They admitted it. Everybody knows it. The stats are factual. How hard would it have been? Maybe I'm naive, or maybe we should have insisted, even if it wasn't insanely hard, to just get like 5% of the Mexico's revenue on this project to go to building a second plant there. They did it. I went down. Mayor Geary and I, our supervisor now, but Mayor at the time, Geary and I, we went down. We watched it be built. I was very skeptical. I didn't think they were going to be able to get it done. They built it. It was a little late. It's supposed to be October. It went online the next April, but it runs and treats sewage. It's not that treating sewage is not that complex.
So they just built it at half capacity.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying. Yeah.
It's half the capacity. It's what they built. And, you know, I did work. We got into minute 333 that they'll explore building another plant. That, as Councilmember Fisher pointed out, there is no requirement, right? So, and we're pushing the IBWC to make it happen, and the president and the trade representative with the USMCA being renegotiated. But here's, you know, I think it easily, that's something simple that could be done. Build that plant.
Okay.
They did we watched it get built. It wasn't that hard.
Mario, this is a really complex situation because it's international, federal, and state. And then us as a regional body, we have, I think, a limited amount of power, but we have some given what we're doing here. Could you just explain a little bit more about sort of the whole situation and what is possible and what and about this committee? Because I apologize, but I do not recall.
The project it's moving right now, so it has so many tentacles to deal with. It does give us a leverage to bring up issues, and it also brings up the point of being on a table to converse with our Mexican partners on the usage of their funds. Now, on our side, what happened when SB 10 was moving forward was several committees felt that it was going against the Constitution, state constitution, of using transportation dollars from something that it wasn't transportation. I think there's a lot of opportunities as we are embarking and keep working on funding the project and reducing the bonding leveraging for this project. And to get it, I think it's going to be two fronts. It's going to be being very actively with our Mexican partners at the three levels, which we've been bringing up, on the need to develop the appropriate infrastructure, not just with sewer plants, but also the appropriate infrastructure that it's required to manage, let it see, solid waste or liquid waste. There is the county's hiring a specialist or somebody who will be like a master person dealing with the issue. And you correct me if I'm wrong here, Supervisor, but we've been, also engaging with the different groups and trying to understand all the efforts that are going on, and not understand, but it's not us to coordinate it. I think there's multiple groups working on it, but understanding all the efforts. Even the Chamber of Commerce got involved with it, right? The San Diego Greater Chamber doing a report. There's a forum tomorrow from UCSD also happening. And so there's a lot of things going on, but I think to Mayor Duncan's and Council Members Fisher point this, well, show me the action and the results. We are keep trying to be that part of that in that table of conversations, but also we keep bringing it up to our Mexicans, that partners, that as they're looking into how to manage their funds and setting up a structure, that this piece, this item that's being discussed will be put in that part of the structure of the finance, of how to manage the finance and what can be used for. There's been, like I said, we have had a lot of meetings about it where we have brought it up. We know that also at the federal level, like you mentioned, there are discussions. I'm not prelude to those discussions at the federal government, but we have talked to the State Department of trying to coordinate that. It is a complex issue to catch up, but what we're trying to do from the, let's say, the portion of this project and as an MPO, it's saying, hey, this is an identifiable revenue source that could be used for the problem. We're bringing it up to our Mexican partners and doing our resiliency study. What we're trying to do is, from an objective step progression, is basically setting it up to make a story on our side saying resiliency, climate change, and other issues are something that are related to transportation. Therefore, it probably should be allowed to connect different funding sources from transportation facilities to mitigate other issues that may not be directly in let's say in the 20th century related. So that's a lot of our resiliency study that we're doing, trying to get all that. It's complex, and to get to those points of decision making at the three levels of government on the U.S. side and on the Mexican side, it's like putting an exponential curve going up. So from an MPO, that's what we're doing. I always mention to the team every time that we're going to come up with an multi-mesa subject that needs to come up for decisions, I go, we really need to think what are we doing on the mandate that you mentioned? So that's what we've been doing. It probably is not tangible right now. We're trying to set that foundations because it didn't exist from our part here. We're an MPO, a transportation agency, getting involved in a complex subject that's normally it's dealt by the federal government. So injecting ourselves as a community is where we are in trying to find those action items.
Okay, it's complex. This committee, would that be a useful thing? I mean, we know it's an environmental problem. We know it's a health problem.
Chair, I have to raise a point of order.
Yes.
And that is, as great as this conversation is, and I appreciate Mario kind of drawing a nexus to the item, but this really goes beyond the item on the agenda, and now
It does. And
going into a Brown Act violation.
I can see the connection, and I did want to continue to pursue it because I think it's an important item that hadn't been addressed clearly when this comes up and every single person from South County around the board pushes to say something. I think it's important to address it.
Well, I mean, if we have a point of order, maybe our council could weigh in and tell us if we're getting close to a Brown Act violation, because I don't think so. We passed something directly related to this project. The agenda has environmental mitigation in it. Certainly talking about it isn't a violation. Maybe if we're going to vote on doing something different, I would agree with you. But we're not voting on, to my knowledge, on anything, that's not on the agenda. We're discussing concerns. I don't think it's a Brown Act violation.
Yeah, the item before you is approval of the ability to appoint Mario to execute the amendment. And so to the extent that it impacts
It could be added into the conversation.
There's some tangential, so it can be commented on.
Okay, thank you.
I've got a list. You push your button, Karina. Yeah.
If I may say, an update to that effort that we're doing for resiliency, if my memory serves me right, it's on the Borders Committee update. I think it is, Andrea, right? You're now managing Borders.
The upcoming July 24th Borders Committee meeting agenda, at this point, the draft includes a discussion of the resiliency plan that SANDAG is. It will be a panel discussion, ideally, with SCAG's resiliency toolkit, SANDAG's resiliency plan. We're looking to hear from Scripps Institute of Oceanography on a heat map tool that they've created, followed by a discussion by Cal EPA on their plastic pollution mitigation fund, which should provide some funding opportunities for resiliency planning. So those are the items upcoming.
So it was directed to the Borders Committee as a working group to address environmental issues, and that will be happening. And Carolina, you are the chair of the Borders Group, so I think we're okay. Okay, so I'm going to now continue down the list. I've jumped ahead to all the South County people for their first try, and we'll come back to them, but I'm going to then go to Mayor Minto, who's been waiting a while to speak.
Great, thank you. I thought it was really interesting looking at the numbers for like northbound, southbound. Cargo, for instance, was 20%, southbound's 4%. And passenger cars were kind of numbers similar to that. Here's my question, though. We talk about all this northbound traffic and we're building infrastructure to handle that. Where does all that traffic go? Does it eventually come southbound and we should still have the infrastructure to handle it going southbound? Or does it just go other places in the United States and then somehow make its way back around? Where's all that traffic go if we have so much going northbound? Doesn't it go southbound again at some point?
Yes, it does. A good chunk of it, especially the PVs that we're talking about, it's normally commuter traffic. the security checks coming northbound are much stricter than the security checks going southbound. Therefore, it creates queues and time delays in San Isidro and Otay, and that's why it's basically the value of time, right? And it's like taking an alternate route of, instead of taking I-5, you may take 805, which is another north-south corridor. So that's what it is on this one. It's basically that there is a willingness to pay to reduce your wait time at the border crossing, pretty much.
So the fact that people aren't waiting in a queue to go southbound doesn't require the same kind of infrastructure then to continue southbound.
And there's not that much demand because the persons may elect to go free on existing Otay and existing San Isidro.
Yeah, I just want to make sure because 100,000 cars is 100,000 cars, whether it's going northbound or southbound, and you have to have the infrastructure to handle both. And the question is, why is it that it doesn't match? And I think that's reasonable to say that because, coming back, they may not have the same time, because they're not starting the same time of day, or they are using an alternative, crossing. But I think that's an important part for us to think about because we don't want to run into the problems where, like we talked about the sewage problem, they build something that's 50%. And then later on, something got to raise money to fix the rest of it. So I just want to make sure we're thinking of that.
Thank you. Councilmember Pikus.
Well, I may be from Poway, but the pollution in Imperial Beach is one of my hot button issues. It really angers me. And I remember back in the early 90s when I first heard about it and it set me off. And here it is 35 years later and they do nothing. And I have great respect for you, Mario. You're an outstanding administrator. But all I've heard about our discussions with Mexico is asking them to ask for something and writing a memorandum of understanding. And nothing happens because there's no teeth to it. And I understand, as Councilwoman Chavez from Chula Vista mentioned that there's a human cost or human benefit to this because people can get across the border easily. Those that are willing to pay $10 per car. But the fact is that Mexico needs this port more than we need it. They need trade with us more than we need trade with them. And if this is the leverage to get them to do something about the pollution, I'm willing to vote no, even as a protest, and even if this is going to go down 18-1. So, because I really want them to sit up and take notice. And I understand it will delay the project a year until it comes around for a vote again, and maybe that will get their attention. But Mexico seems to be uninterested in all the sewage they dump in our nation because there's no consequences for them doing so. So I'm a no on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Sanchez. He promoted you.
I know. I wish. No. I want to start by saying I do very much appreciate the conversations regarding mitigation because it truly is a piece that tremendously negatively impacts our side of the border. I had really didn't even realize what was happening when our staff in Oceanside said, "Oh, we're going to have lunch with a delegation from Mexico at our pure water plant." And I said, "Sure, I'll be there." It was amazing because I learned that there is a movement regarding water. Those that were present were environmentalists, folks from the university, elected officials from Tecate, Tijuana, Baja California, and their crisis is water. They are talking about shutoffs of water.
And pure water is a potential solution. They are looking at a desal plant, which is much more expensive, but a pure water project, and this does connect. Let me just tell you that when you clean your okay, we never called it, toilet to tap. Okay, we never did that mistake that the city of San Diego did. We called it pure water. And they are talking about changing their laws that would require water, which, as we all know, you couldn't, even as a kid, I knew you couldn't drink out of the tap, right? In Tijuana. We always drank those small bottles of Coca-Cola, right? When you're in Tijuana, right? But this is serious. They are talking about shutting off water. They are at a crisis. And this should be included in the conversations, I think, because if the technology is available here on this side and we can offer that kind of technical assistance, why not do that? I will remind everyone that City of San Diego had a problem with sewer, treating it only once and going out to the ocean. As a member of the Coastal Commission, I thought, okay, give them a couple of years. I'm sure they'll fix it. There was no response to that. No, we can't fix it. We don't know when we can. The fact that the city of San Diego then went on to pure water, they finally were able to fix it, that issue, to ensure that it is treated more than one time before it goes into the ocean. So I think that getting into those discussions, Tecate would like to be the city that actually does it, which is a much smaller city in Tijuana. What is it, 2 million? 3 million? But they're actively looking at desal, which is much more expensive, much more environmentally a problem for them. And I do feel that these conversations you're asking, what can we do, is there is a movement amongst the university, amongst council members, getting it into the federal government. They want to do something about this. And so I just want to send out that message there. They want to have me come down to Tecate, to Tijuana, to talk about pure water. Let's do this. And it is a lower cost than desal. And if we, instead of having it just a regular treatment plant, I don't know comparatively what the costs are, but if we can make that a pure water project instead, that would be amazing for both sides of the community to be able to finally have drinking water solution to the Tijuana community. Thank you. And I do support the project, but yes, I do feel that we need to somehow encourage this, support this movement. And I know there's a lot of folks here in this room who have relationships with officials on the other side of the border. I'm not pretending to be one of those folks at all. Let me just make that clear. But the fact that there was so much excitement in this meeting and that they want to move forward is something that I think needs to be shared. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Sheehan?
Thank you. Thanks for the report. Just a quick one to reinforce, because it was kind of mentioned. I do believe that the committees already exist and the working groups already exist, and we need to ensure that we're using them and that committees and working groups are reporting back to us as a board, as opposed to not knowing what's going on. So if Mayor Duncan is asking, hey, what's going on with this? Where are we last at? It should have already been known through our committees. And I'll take onus as well in the committee in which I chair, that I should be reporting back to the board of the actions that we do, so that if all of a sudden there's questions being asked by the board, it's already been delivered, including what's next on the agenda. I made it a point with OIPA that we don't seem to communicate well from working group to committee and then us to the board. that also then just being said with the Borders Committee, we should have this on the agenda ad nauseum until the representative there in Mexico understands that this is getting nauseous. And if they're asking us why it's so annoying, we're going to just say because the pollution's annoying, and we're just going to keep rattling this off until you guys present a good solution. And or what type of needs do you need as a city of Tijuana or as a country of Mexico for us to be able to collaborate and get this together? Because in the end, when it comes to macroeconomics and global trade, we're just as fault as as consumers, in which we are as American consumers, and the amount we want to consume per person, that we do create quite a bit of pollution globally. So when I was in textiles and you go to Asia and you see what we do in order to get our clothes out here, you'd be quite shocked of what it is that Americans are doing across our entire globe. And some of that impact is actually taking place just next door. So I don't want to just say that they are to blame as much as we are the ones that are asking for their consumption and their manufacturing to come out here as well. So we should help be in partnership of getting solutions being done instead of saying it's just their fault. But I do know that there's a lot of contention behind that.
Thank you. Councilmember Casares.
Thank you. I will be brief, but despite being a member of the council in La Mesa, I worked on this issue for years at the San Diego Regional Chamber of Commerce with a lot of my colleagues on the board. And what I'm hearing today is that I think it's time for us to have a SANDAG meeting, that we have a consent agenda and we have Tijuana River Valley pollution updates. And so while I have a lot more that I would like to say, I'm going to support this, but I'm going to ask if I could make a friendly amendment to the motion that would include direction to staff to ensure that in the next 90 days, one of our SANDAG meetings is committed to updates on the Tijuana River Valley pollution crisis, including updates from working groups. And I think it's an important opportunity. There are also working groups outside of SANDAG that I think would like to be a part of these discussions. Obviously, I'm sure, chambers of commerce and whatnot. So I think there's a lot to be said. There's a lot of changes. We're the fourth largest economy in the world. We're also not providing housing for people, and we are sending folks down to Mexico from the United States to live there and helping create that pollution. It's also where we're vacationing and all of that. So yes, there's absolutely blame to be had, but I think instead of spending extensive time on this today, we should really have a full meeting. So I ask if there's room for a friendly amendment.
Councilmember, it's already been planned to have that on the agenda.
In the next 90 days?
Within the fall.
In the fall, okay.
But I would have accepted it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, all right, okay. Councilmember Contreras.
Yeah, thank you. Along those same lines, I was just wondering, if it's possible to even add something, some language like authorize CEO to discuss sewage crisis mitigation with respective parties as pertains to the project, and report to the board next steps to address emergency mitigation, anything like that.
I think that the CEO is at every opportunity, at every level. It's not just one person, who's involved in this on the other side of the border, but multiple.
Yeah, exactly. But just to be congruent with the board action that's being asked of us. So just food for thought.
Yeah. I mean,
that's my only comment.
Yeah,
Thanks.
okay, very good. And Supervisor Geary, you're back up.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I appreciate everybody's thoughts and support on this issue. I think that, no offense to the working group or to the presentations planned for it, like plastic pollution reduction and heat maps. I mean, it's like we're offering Band-Aids for somebody who's bleeding out because their aorta has been cut. So I would like to see us have a lot more, be more leaderful and be more assertive in what this body sees as this crisis, how it perceives it. I think there's still an opportunity to pursue that legislation if this entire body were to support that effort and push for it. We have lobbyists in Sacramento that are working there on the day-to-day, because other than that, I'm sorry, but the discussions will just be lip service, meetings for the sake of meeting. That's not going to move the needle. And we have a real opportunity to move the needle. And if it's what's preventing us from moving the needle is a legislative fix, then let's go ahead and pursue that legislative fix. Let's take destiny in our own hands, because depending on an entirely different nation for solutions, we're going to be here another 20 years. And yes, people will die if they haven't died already. We're going to determine that very soon. And Mayor Sanchez, I appreciate your enthusiasm regarding wastewater recycling. The fact of the matter, the reason why the river's flowing right now is because Mexico is dumping 18 million gallons of treated effluent on 2 sewage treatment plants in the east side of the city. They're dumping 18 million gallons of perfectly clean water on a daily basis. That's why the river is flowing. The river shouldn't be flowing when it doesn't rain. It's flowing because all that treated water is being dumped into the river and causing it to flow on a year-round basis. They have spoken about recycling water, but guess what? They just approved a desal project. Even though there's enthusiasm by the city of Tijuana, they have no jurisdiction over those types of projects. It's the Mexican federal government, and they just put millions of dollars into desal. So even though there's enthusiasm from local authorities in Tijuana, that's not going to happen because the federal government is moving in a different direction. And yeah, it's going to put more water into the system, causing more sewage to be created. If we're going to put some teeth into this, I say we pursue a legislative fix at the state level, so then we can really put skin in the game and use some of the funds that Mexico is paying into to use our border to benefit these companies into wastewater infrastructure on our side. So I would like to make a friendly amendment to my proposition, to my second, and propose the maker of the motion to bring this back, not just for discussion, but for action, so that the next legislative session, we can pursue that legislation and we can actually put money towards real infrastructure on our side, where we have control and where we can begin to mitigate this public health emergency.
I'm just querying if this is, because it hasn't been noticed to the public.
All I'm asking is to bring it back for consideration at a future date, but I want it to be very specific about the legislation that would actually put teeth into what we're saying here and not just discussions for the sake of discussing.
Yeah, to the extent that this discussion impacts your ability to approve the item before you, then, I'm okay with the comments. But what I'm hearing from Supervisor Paloma is to agendize on a future agenda discussion regarding speaking with the legislator to address this topic.
Which would come to the executive committee and then, okay, all right.
I would support it as well.
Okay, so we've got 3 separate things that were added to this.
Yeah, I want to make a point here clear, right? I think we all want to get to some solutions. And like I mentioned, it is a complex subject, and it is an element that, as an MPO who delivers transportation projects, it's something new. Now, having said that, the Otay Mesa East project, everybody sees it as a leverage, and let's use the funds from it, right? But like I mentioned at one point, if you want to get funds from something, from an endeavor or a business, you need to open your doors for that business, right? You need to get it operating. I think the action that you have in front of you actually helps with part of the discussion that's been happening up to a point. And you may agree or disagree, but the point here is we just were allowed to be able to move free money from the state and from the federal government to move forward on implementing the piece of the project that's going to generate about 60% of the revenue without major bonding. Therefore, the revenues would not be committed. There may be a need for some nominal loan for it, but you are not committing the revenues on this action. Actually, what you're doing is you're moving forward with a full funding package to bring in 60% of the revenues without getting a mortgage. Those actions facilitate a conversation with the state of what you're bringing up, supervisor, because at the state level, they were saying, well, how, if you're going to take money away, it's not for transportation. We've invested so much money and you're not going to realize it. So I just want to put it in perspective. And it also gives us a little bit more leverage now in discussions with our partners, because we do not have a funding commitment or a payback commitment or a bond covenant. So I wanna put those things in a strategic point of view, right? It's good to talk about it and express what we want to achieve. But when you want to achieve something, you have to have a plan. And the conversation as is today is the Otay Mesa East Port of Entry project and realizing it or not realizing it. You want us, we could stop working on it. We can, we're going to have to pay a bunch of delays and send the contractors, everybody home. That's going to be cost to the agency, and we have to return the money that we got for free. But it's not going to give us any revenue in the future. So good luck negotiating for me, because you'll be sending me to negotiate. There's nothing there. But by moving forward with a project that has reduced your mortgage payment, if we look at it from our house, that means that we have funding available that may be needed to pay future mortgage, part of it, but it reduces those needs and it makes us be more strategic it puts us in a more strategic position. So I want to just put it out there in that point of view, because it actually makes us stronger, right? The action upon us today is we got permission to use more money. We got more money. It's free money from the state and the feds. But what that action really does is it unlocks 60% of the revenue of the project without having a major bonding commitment or a payback commitment. So it frees some of our restrictions and it allows us to have bigger conversations at the state and the federal level.
That was very helpful. Thank you. Two more speakers on the board. Vice Chair.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor Molina.
Thank you, Chair Huebner. Thank you, Mario. And you are going to allow me to soften my comment a little bit, because I am completely inspired by the conversation today and all of the members that have spoken, because I was going to insist that the item, the action that we're taking today does signal the conversation that we've been having and does add teeth, like Supervisor Paloma mentioned earlier, and it was brought up by Mayor Duncan. This is something that is an expectation because it's action that we have asked for before. But now this item is before us. The staff report is very light on addressing the environmental issues around this. Yes, we are talking about approving a contract. And as you mentioned, Mario, taking in money that is specific to this cost, but it isn't just in this bubble. It affects the entire region, just as it has been described for the last hour. So I was going to ask and insist that we add teeth to the action that we are going to vote on today. I understand we've got to be careful with Brown Act and how this thing is being agendized. But if we had maintained the item that we received on our agenda report within that bubble, perhaps, and then Mayor Duncan, perhaps had taken a break and skipped the opportunity to bring up the environmental, this whole discussion, salient discussion, probably would not have happened. And that would have been a completely missed opportunity. So I do want to add teeth, however possible, make sure that whatever future conversations and actions happen about OME2 include the regional impact for not just the Tijuana River Valley, but the impact, to housing, like Ms. Casares mentioned, and I believe it was the council member from San Diego said, we are, it's not just Tijuana, it's not just Mexico. Globally, there is impact because of the fact, our little blue planet is, we need to help our little blue planet. So that's all I was going to say. And I don't know how to add language to the item. I think Corina had some suggestions, Paloma had suggestions. I just want to be mindful that the OME project does not exist in a bubble. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll go to Mayor Ehlers and then we'll work on the exact wording for the motion.
I wanted to thank everybody for I thought the comments about the environmental were very well founded. I was thinking back when we made the past motion and I've been trying to find it in the minutes just to see what the minutes actually said. And I can't find it. What date was that decision?
Here, we have it here. Well,
the date and I'll find it later.
It's the July 12th, 2024.
Okay. That's
minutes.
Why. Okay. But then moving on, the part I wanted to talk about was completely different. It was more along lines with Mario, your explanation. You actually hit. I kept going back. We're looking at 362 million in bonding out of a 1.4 billion project, and I'm going. But this is all essentially we develop it, and then we under the donation acceptance agreement we executed, we are going to then move this over to the federal government. And so I'm trying to understand how this all comes together. We're actually building this and then donating it to the federal government, and Caltrans is donating the land, I believe, underneath. And then we're splitting the revenue stream. So there's a revenue splitting stream. And so kind of bringing it back to the pollution is, where's our leverage? When's our leverage? And we're going to donate this and we will have almost no leverage at that point, right? Certainly when we build it, we've given all the leverage to Mexico. And so I think now is the time to be addressing this. And we need to do it before we move forward. I just didn't understand how the revenue flow until you explained that. And so I'm going to, by the same token that I don't think the staff report addressed the environmental, I think it also didn't address your explanation there. And I thought that was a failure. I think we need to include those kind of discussions about the funding in here, because it was not clear from reading the report or even going back and reading the July 10th, 2025 minutes. I couldn't find it. So I appreciate what you said there. So, Chris, I'm with you. I could vote no today very, very easily, because I feel like I'm giving up our leverage to get this fixed and move it along and keep Mexico motivated. But at the same token, turning on the toll in order to minimize the funding requirement is a good argument too. So I'm still in a quandary right now. Which way I go.
I think we still have, leverage with the revenue that's coming forward, and this is going to allow us to have that. So
no, I think the question is, once Mexico begins getting traffic, that's the one thing they can't buy. Once it opens up, then you relieve the pressure, the economic pressure, and it builds. Yeah. And I'm at a quandary. I'm literally it's one of those votes where you go, I don't know which way I'm going to vote yet.
Okay, well, it's coming soon.
I know. I know. So I just wanted to put that out there I think Chris made a good argument. I think Mario made a good argument that we want to get the money flowing, but by the same token, we need to solve this horrific environmental issue. So with that, I'll yield.
Okay, so the Board of Directors is asked to authorize the CEO to execute the Construction Services Agreement Amendment 1 and award Work Package 2 for the Otay Mesa East Port of Entry project, and future, and that an item come back within 90 days with recap and a future look ahead for the Tijuana River Valley, that the CEO uses whatever leverage possible in all discussions with parties.
Can I
Yeah.
take the liberty of proposing something to
Yes,
the board here? As I stated, this is important to move, but it actually puts us in a better leveraging position. So I think if you want to put it in writing, but I can tell you that even if it's in writing, I think we all heard very loud and clear, and we're not gonna, any other future package has to bring up strategies of how and actions that we're taking regarding the overall environmental issues at the border, and specifically Tijuana River. So, like Ali mentioned, this is just one of the packages that's coming forward, but there are going to be multiple package and actions coming up. And one we need to report. I think I don't want to put the words in the chair, Borders chair, but I think the Borders Committee is going to send their recommendations and set up a working group. And I think with some board members here, in future packages, we come with reports and our actions and strategies and usage of leverage to try to insert ourselves into the solution of this problem. Now, I have to be very honest with you, because SANDAG won't be the total solution of this issue. It's a joint effort, but as for 20 years, we've been injecting ourselves in and I say 20 years, so you have a magnitude. We were able to inject ourselves as a region into the border infrastructure for ports of entry. I think we could inject ourselves even more in a broader conversation beyond transportation at the border. That's very clear. Your mandate is very clear, and we have been working on it, but I think it's even more efforts and more actions that need to be taken. And it's also going to require a lot of you who have actively participated, but probably even be more active within this agency on working groups and working with maybe the Borders Committee or a specific working group and attending meetings and negotiations. We could take it to multiple levels higher. That's what I can tell you I see happening. And like I said, in the early 2000s or late 1900s, it sounds so cocky, but we were able to inject this agency. Other leaders were able to inject in the border infrastructure when we were told it's not your business. And now look at where we are. We're building infrastructure there. So I think that there is a great deal of opportunity. I think the action today puts us in a much stronger position from a financial perspective, because we now have leverage with less commitments to pay off. So that's what I've heard. That's the action I'm proposing. We could write it as an action item to codify it, that we would, bring in any additional package that's brought up on the OME subject, that we will also bring up a companion update on our efforts to inject this agency, and it not just inject itself in the conversation, but also in the financial solution for environmental issues on the border.
Can I make the suggestion then that up there is the motion, the rest is direction to staff? I think we all got it, and it's all on record, and I think that it's very clear. Okay, Mayor Duncan, you had a final comment, and then First Vice Chair Luqadda.
Thank you. I'll be quick. I just want to be clear that, so it was almost 2 years ago today that on this same topic, the same agenda item, State Route 11, Otay Mesa East Port of Entry Agreements, which is what is on our agenda today. There was a motion made by Councilmember Fisher and seconded by Councilmember at the time Duncan that the board voted to direct the CEO to develop a temporary working group to address environmental concerns, including but not limited to the trans-border sewage issues in the border region, and to adopt the resolutions approving the binational agreements for this State Route 11 Otay Mesa East Port of Entry. Part of the reason I think that passed unanimously at the time by the board of directors was similar representations that we're receiving today, that would give us more leverage in moving forward on this issue, on the sewage issue with this project going forward. Now, obviously that has not happened. That we've had no movement, and I'm not aware of there being a temporary working group, and it's been 2 years since the unanimous vote by the board. You know, I hear what you're saying today. I'm willing to move this forward today, but I'm just going to say that, and I say that partially for the other council members that have offered support from other jurisdictions potentially. I don't want to misrepresent. I will vote for it today, but going forward, I'm not going to be able to vote for yes on anything related to this project in the state that we are in now and that we have been in since, you know, about 3 years ago. I'll say, and again, for some of the people who weren't on the board then, I think the noise, for lack of a better word, that we made at that time had a direct impact on causing Mexico to build the new sewage plant that they built. If there is not that pressure, I agree, and I'm not saying this to be negative, but just from the history of what I've seen, that there's unlikely to be movement on their side. And just my final comment, I'll be quiet, is the comment about, you know, don't just point the finger. It is not them. Okay, factually, 100% of the sewage we're talking about comes from Mexico. The United States is investing $1 billion in trying to treat it. 100% of the sewage we're talking about is Mexican sewage. That's a fact. Thank you.
First Vice Chair.
My apologies for jumping in late. I thought there was actually going to be an amendment to that. There's a whole lot of things. I've generally stayed out of this conversation because there's so many smart people. I don't want to add any more noise, but I understand I'll leave it there. I'm generally not excited about doing direction staff within motions. And as Councilmember Moreno knows, I generally avoid that. But I think this is so important. And given the fact that we did it once, I think it's worth repeating again within the motion. And I think the phrase that was on the screen there for a moment captures it. I was just going to tweak it just a little bit, and which was direct staff to return with a report within 90 days, because it doesn't box the staff in. It doesn't box us in. It doesn't signal things that, you know, people start defending. The only thing I would say is provide a report and action plan. And I think I want to, you know, emphasize, as others have, because I think, with all due respect, Mario, for as much as I respect you, you fall into the engineer's trap of, I hear complaints, oh my God, it's my job to solve everything. And I don't think that's what anybody's saying. I think what everybody's saying, if I can possibly interpret, is this problem is just going on for so many years that these good people that are actually deep in this are looking for every avenue and every venue to tackle this, with the hope that one of that clicks and actually does something that changes the conversation. And so we're here, we're this board. We want SANDAG to do everything within its purview. I mean, every time I have to vote for a continuing emergency for the Tijuana River Valley at the city of San Diego, I'm like, what the hell am I doing here? But within SANDAG's purview, what is everything we can do? And whether it's leverage, because we're doing something that I don't understand why NEPA didn't discover exactly what you said, Mayor, of unintended consequences of what would happen by putting the border crossing in and increasing dramatically the economic and the population of Tijuana. I think we have to mitigate that before we can actually do that. That's an old conversation. I won't take it any further. But I think if we just have this, because I think we need to send a signal to our fellow jurisdictions that are directly impacted and all of us that are indirectly impacted, that this is serious enough that we ought to take this moment. And it doesn't box staff in, but it does bring it back and says, we have authority, we have legal authority, maybe we have economic leverage, that we're going to exercise what we can. And with all due respect to the Borders Committee, I think this is where the conversations need to happen. There's a lot of other environmental issues that Borders has to take on. Let them do that, but let's bring it back.
Okay,
Madam Chair, I have a point of order, just procedurally. My amended motion that was accepted by the maker of the motion is what's reflected here. I just didn't appreciate that it was erased, and we were going to consider that procedurally per the Brown Act. If I amend a motion and the maker of the motion accepts that, it has to be what we're saying and not just watered down. So moving forward, I think we just need to be very mindful of that, especially in the context of what's being discussed. I wasn't on this board at the time. I was still a mayor. But the fact that that resolution happened and that was clear direction and discussion, that should have been memorialized in this conversation. Thank you.
Very good. That was going to happen is what I understood already. So, and this is good. We'll do this. So let's vote on this item. Okay, that passes with 3 in opposition. Okay, we will now move on to the board policies, work plan, and proposed amendment. Teddy, changing the guard here. Escondido, Poway, and Santee. Okay, let's get started. Teddy, I know it feels good to stand up.
Well, after that very robust discussion on the prior one, I'll promise to hopefully keep this quick, relatively quick. As a continual effort.
Wait, hold on, Teddy, because it looks like people are taking bathroom breaks and half the room is vacating, and this is an important item.
And I do need a vote from the board. So maybe, do you want to give everybody a second?
Let's take 5 and then we'll be right back. But please come back in 5 minutes. Okay, if everybody could start moving to your seats, please. Looks like we're all heading to our seats. There's a few empties. Okay, let's all get to our seats and we'll turn this over to Teddy. And as soon as you feel you have attention of everybody, please start.
Thank you, Chair. I know that was a very robust discussion. I'll try to keep this as short as possible, but as you have all known, I'm coming back to you from time to time to kind of give you an update about my efforts to in reviewing the board policies and what I've termed as the board modernization project and kind of an update on that. And I do have a request at the end. And I do have to apologize to the members who have been on the executive committee. This is a little bit of a redo of that, but we do need board action based on some discussions we had from executive committee. Mayor Duncan, I'm looking at you on those things and Supervisor Aguirre. So as I move forward, in looking at the board policies, and I'd like to kind of show everybody, and executive committee got a preview of this last time, that if you're pulling up the SANDAG board policies and bylaws, this is the board policies and bylaws. It's about 400 pages of documents. You can all see how thick that is. If you just take a look at our, before I move on to that, I pulled up other agencies in the state of California. And these are 6 other agencies, including BART, LA Metro, SCAG, the Bay Area government, and Metrolink. These are their policies. So you're talking about 6 policies here. It's even a fraction of SANDAG's policies. In reviewing them, they're very detailed. Extremely so. They're kind of like a how-to manual of things, which make it very, very complicated to do things. I think there's good, obviously, being the board, you direct staff, you direct me on how to do things, and that should be a basic guideline of things. But these have literally become like literally, hey, you have to do this before you do this to do that. It's a bloated system, to be honest with you. And I'm going to just take an example. This is board policy 16. This is the procurement section, and this is double-sided, but if you were to single-side this is about 30 pages. And you go, okay, 30 pages isn't bad, but this is literally a guide of how exactly staff is to do each function. Well, you go, okay, well, 30 pages isn't that bad, Teddy. What's the problem? Well, you have 30 pages of this, and then you have SANDAG's internal procurement manual. This is another, if you single-sided this, 350 pages. And the 350 pages go into excruciating detail of this 30-page document of procedures and policies. And there's a lot of lack of efficiency. Now being here a little bit over 6 months, there's a lot of administrative hurdles you have to jump through. And it's not anything that you're not hiding anything from the board and doing. It just causes a lot of duplication, I think, inefficiency of work that I think can be streamlined, especially from somebody who's come from LA Metro, where I drafted or rewrote a lot of their procurement policies and everything. It doesn't go into this detail. And you're talking about an agency at LA Metro that has a yearly annual budget of $9.5 billion. They don't even go into excruciating detail. It makes everything extremely hard. And I actually think it's prone to errors. And that's kind of the first thing I wanted to talk about is that in the middle section, as you can see, you have something that we have, and I'll show you the chart. There's going to be 43 board policies that are there. And it goes into not only the procurement one, but I can go into almost any section. It provides almost directives and guidelines and how to do certain things. And on top of that, you have other manuals. There's duplication risk because if you make one change to something, it doesn't necessarily replicate and make changes to all the other things. So it's prone to inherent error because as people change, people come and go, people forget. You're not going to remember that you have redundant board policies, you have redundant internal policies, and we may have made one change, but they didn't realize it had 3 other sections in 3 different board policies that talk about it. And I'll show you that. In addition to that, a lot of the stuff that's gone on is that we have bylaws. The bylaws, as you all know, all may know, is kind of the constitution of an agency. It's supposed to be, hey, these are things that are not changed. Our bylaws internally say, hey, these are the bylaws. You shouldn't be doing this. But then they say, oh, but you know what? By a simple vote of board policy, you can change any of the bylaws for a lot of parts. So what I did was I went through. I was very proud of myself. I'm going to pat myself on the back. Because I am not an Excel spreadsheet person, but I took an Excel spreadsheet, and you can see I can't read it because I'm over 50 now. But on the computer, I can zoom in. I took each of the board bylaws and board policies where you can basically either conflict or you can override board policy with or bylaws with board policy. And these are highlighted. Each of these columns, there's 3 pages on 11 and by 17. This is just my work so far on this stuff. And that's me going into a deep dive in this. I don't expect anybody in this agency would know just all these conflicts. That's why there's a lot of questions and conflicts about who can do what's going on. So that's part of my process as I'm going through this thing, is to identify this and to try to ultimately present something to the board to streamline this, not taking any away the power, but making it just manageable, that, hey, the future general counsel, the future CEO, the future board, the future people who work at SANDAG know where to go with it, because I think there's a lot of confusion at times on that. So I'm going to move on to my next slide. And I kind of described this a little bit earlier, but there's kind of a hierarchy that doesn't really get discussed here, but this is kind of the general hierarchy, is that you have the bylaws, and I called it the Constitution. You have basically the bylaw should be, hey, this is SANDAG. We shall name a CEO. It doesn't even have a section for naming the general counsel or WIPA, whoever's the board designated. That subsequently gets put into board policy, but that should be kind of the overriding things. There should be this many members of the board, things that just don't kind of fundamentally change from time to time. Board policies is kind of the strategic intent, kind of like, hey, this is the direction. This is when, certain things have to come to us. This is what we want you to do as Mario or the future CEO should do. This is what should generally to be the case. And then internally, you have all the stuff you want to write. That stuff is kind of the stuff, the operations, the stuff that staff has to do internally that can be changed by staff because things change. So as I said, my goal here, and I'll be coming back to you periodically, and I do have a plan moving forward, is to kind of come back to you on for a periodic basis to present my proposed changes for your ultimate approval and sign off. And, but from now to then, this is and as Mario and I discussed, and we've previewed it at the executive committee, is that, this is going to be a long-term effort. There's a lot of stuff here that we have to work through. We're talking about 30 years of documents here and policies. But in between that time, staff is going to have to come back to you for periodic changes to amend the board policies, because we have to continue to operate the agency in a working manner. So as you can see from the kind of the binder I showed you, there's 400 pages. It's divided up into 43 separate board policies. But if I was to ask you, if someone asked me, hey, Mr. General Counsel, what's the structure of SANDAG? I would have to probably look at 7 different ones that are littered out, and I'll show you. As I broke down these things, you can see just the structure and governance. You can see logically, historically, it made sense. It was 1, 2, 4, and then kind of a break. There's 14. 14, by the way, has never been used. Then it jumps to 17, 26, 39, 41, 42. It's like if I was on the football team, I could be calling audibles with these numbers. And so I said, all right, what can we do to kind of structure these, that if anybody goes, hey, what's the structure and governance of SANDAG? My idea is to break these up into logical sections and break them up into, and you can see I broke them up into 7 sections that kind of make sense. And eventually I'll be coming back to you with, hey, kind of a repackaging of the structure and governance, and not make it all these kind of sections. So anybody can look: fiscal, financial, legal, operations. That way somebody can look at one section down the road when, there's the next general counsel, the next CEO, or whoever down the road, 30, 40, 50 years from now, they can say, hey, I want to know the structure and governance. They have one section to look at. So what I'm going to ask for you today is, one of the things I came to the executive committee on is that there's some things as I was looking forward, and just to let everybody know that if anything needs to be changed in the board policy, it has to come to the board for approval, which it makes logical sense. You're the board, you tell us what to do. But one of the things is, if it's something small, and I say small meaning technical, organizational, that has to come to the board. So one of the things that are located in here is we still have our old SANDAG address, 401B Street. Well, if someone wanted to change that, we'd have to agendize it and go, hey, board, we want to ask and change the address for this, for the factual. And it's, I think, and there's things like that that are, Mario at certain points in the board policy is still called the executive director, even though he's been the chief executive officer for quite a while. There's things like that. There's spelling mistakes. There's just typographical errors. There's position titles that, or departments that don't exist anymore. And one of the ideas I had was, okay, for technical matters or organizational matters that, you know, me along with the CEO discuss and say, hey, that makes sense to change it. Hey, we're at Union Street now. We're not at B Street anymore. Why don't we, instead of burdening the board, you have more important things like OME to talk about than for us to come and agendize something like that. So the idea I came up with is for technical and organizational matters, we can make Mario and I can, and we're going to come up with a procedure. We fill out the procedure. We say, hey, this looks right. We both sign off on it. We make the change. And then for the board's awareness, we provide a report to you saying, hey, we made these changes. That way, if somehow, you know, Mario and I go rogue and we decide to make wholesale changes to the thing, you can look at it and go, wait, this is not just a technical organizational change. Wait, hold on. We do want to agendize and talk about it. Now, one of the things I did bring up to the executive committee, and this is why we're here, this is a kind of an amendment to the amendment, was there was some concern and discussion talked about, I wanted to include legal changes. And when I meant legal changes was, hey, a statute section by change from 123 to 456, there was no substantive change. Supervisor Geary, I think, expressed some concerns about, well, you know what, there's a little bit of a blurred line sometimes with what considered as a legal change. The most recent thing, when I came here, I had to discuss the DBE issue. Is that really a legal change or not? There was some discussion about that, you know, and there was a proposed amendment to do that. But I said, you know, that makes perfect sense. So what we did, and we're coming for a revised amendment from the executive committee, is that for technical and organizational changes, you know, we'll make the change and we'll provide a summary within 60 days of those changes. But any amendments that are going to be to the board policy regarding state, local, federal, we're not going to come to just make a unilateral change. If we do make the change, we propose a change, we're going to take it, put it on the consent calendar for the board's formal approval. If you like it, you can approve it on consent. You don't like it, you can pull it off consent and call me out saying, well, I don't think this is purely a, you know, legal change. There's a policy discussion here and we can talk about it. And that's what we're proposing today. And anyway, assuming that the board approves my request, we would exercise the new section 4.5 to allow me to make Mario and I to make those changes that are technical organizational nature. You know, the next step for me, I kind of skipped over interim policy maintenance. That's what I talked about staff will come to you from time to time for other changes based on OIPA's recommendations, other things that need to be done. But the bylaws, I want to come to you all for review and present a revised bylaw section, and you know, and continue to talk to you as we continue this process to what I call modernize the board policies. I'm open to any questions or any comments.
Thanks, Teddy. We'll go to public comments first, and then we'll move on to member discussion and questions. Michael.
Yes, we have 4 in person and we have 2 online. First is Truth, followed by Cesar Javier. This is item 5.
I'm afraid Teddy may have wasted his time, because if Lisa says that skating the policies a little bit and making it fit is A-okay, then what's the point of the policy revisions? I got to use it. Working group takes over 2 years. Policies take over 30 years. And Neither are done. I don't think they're ever going to be done. And you don't even apply policies to the staff who failed to timely deliver on the money pit SANDAG projects. There was recently an item at iTalk that combined flexible fleets with something unrelated. There was the recent AB 3090 backroom deal. Mario took about 20 minutes to not answer a simple question about a working group. Terry even had to ask if there were policies to prevent the Navy's unpaid bills, and staff said, we're making sure we have contracts in place before we provide services. As in, SANDAG has previously used our resources on services we were never reimbursed for. And of course, approving unaudited fake pilot programs like the Youth Opportunity Trafficking Pass before having a proper policy to operate within. SANDAG continues to kill trust. Kerry said our cities obviously work different than the policies at SANDAG and that this is politics at its best. So instead of Minto's mud piles, I'm tired of SANDAG's cow piles full of missing contracts. It's so much BS from staff for years, it makes one ask if SANDAG is simply incorrigible. SANDAG couldn't even legally notice these meetings. So again, do not blaspheme the Constitution of the United States of America by mentioning it in the same breath as corrupt SANDAG's lack of accountability, responsible practices, standard operating procedures, policy abidance, and lack of brains and ethics. Because even if SANDAG actually abided by its own so-called governance hierarchy, it does not exist without we, the people at the top above the bylaws. We do not yield any political power to a faux government that fails at the public good. So I'd like to see a policy about impeachment of board members. We shouldn't have to wait until they self-implode because this is really what 50% of the conversation.
Thank you. Next is Cesar Javier, followed by allegedly Audra. This is item 5.
Thank you for the presentation. My attention is caught by the word law. Sorry, sir, Teddy Law. I hope that the metabolism is at high, presenting as reality. What we know of bylaw is that solutions that are available, solutions that are responsive, solutions that are adequate, timely, efficient, and effective. Most heroes are violators of their commander's mandate. It could be applied here, or solutions are found outside of the box, all right? And solutions are just like Olympiads, practicing every moment, even in their sleep. Are we doing that, San Diegans? No one here are less before our front. You have more in our life than us here. We voice our concern, and that concern should be hitting the survivability of man. Sir Teddy Law, it should be Teddy High now. Mama Giri, it reminds me of Barbara Streisand. We hear her famous song, People who need people. That's a solution. We have to have one arrow directed to health and safety and survivability of San Diegans. What have we done, Ma'am Vivian Moreno? What have we done, Mayor Gloria, Sir Lacaba, and the rest of the 11 selected officials, and the rest of our elected officials region-wide? What have we done to our people right there at the border?
Thank you. Next is allegedly Audra, followed by Gambler. Thank you. Your time has expired. Next is allegedly Audra, followed by Gambler. This is item number 5.
Point of order. You guys just passed that illegally. I'm sick of you bringing this stuff up. This is absolutely ridiculous. That was illegal to add that information when it was not properly noticed, and then you directed staff. It doesn't matter if it's tangential or not. You guys are failing this entity. You must be protecting the entity because this law team is not doing that. They are flat out lying to you guys and putting you in significant.
This is item 5.
I understand that. I called a point of order. And this has to do with your policies, and everything that he just told you cannot be trusted. That is absolutely ridiculous that you guys continue to violate the law by thinking that you can add things with the Tijuana River Valley into this item when it was never properly noticed. If it was an emergency that just happened, you could, because you could do it under the guise of saying we must immediately mitigate this. This has been going on for decades, and you guys just did that. This is a huge violation that will stall this project because you guys didn't follow the law. You shouldn't have never had that conversation. It doesn't matter if the public brings it up or not. That you should have said, we need to, if we want to put this on to another agenda item, then we'll do that and we'll direct staff to do that, but we cannot discuss this. And that entire conversation was regarding the Tijuana River Valley. So your guys' negligence is costing the people a lot of money, especially paying for a legal team that is flat out willfully negligent. It's absurd to see you guys continue to go down this path, thinking that you can do that. And Minto keeps bringing it up, but then not having the balls to vote no or abstain, because now you're complicit. It's ridiculous.
Next is Gambler, followed by Blair Beekman online. This is item 5, Board Policy 8.
Gambler here. Well, Minto is just a person. He doesn't really run the show. He fully understands that fraud runs our elections. The same exact way what this guy is trying to go ahead and do. Go ahead and remove certain things that prevent things from taking place. Let's just say illegals voting. We went ahead and changed the law on the driver's license to allow them to go in and do it. I worked at the Registrar of Voters for 20 years. The driver's license was the only method that we used to vet out non-citizens. We stopped doing that in 2015. I'm pretty much guarantee that our supervisor, especially the one still sitting here, was elected by illegals.
Commentator, this is
And the
item
only
5.
reason why she refuses to go ahead and look and provide me information on the tools that they use to vet our registration forms, to vet whether or not they should receive a ballot, she refuses to do, which is in violation of NVRA regulation, subsection 8, reasonable effort. I want to ask each and every single one of you, do you think doing nothing, not checking at all, is a reasonable effort? Matter of fact, the DOJ went after us, after California in 2025. I got the letter. They went over there and said all these things, and they said, well, because Shiloh Marks is the one telling us who to remove off of our list, that is our tool. That is not reasonable effort. That is
Second reminder, this is item number 5.
telling you what to go ahead and do. I understand that you guys are trying to change the rules to go ahead and bypass laws and go ahead and push your agendas for the NGOs. The NGOs created the fraud in 1982 that we covered up with the NVRA in 1993. We added on to that with the HAVA and to the.
Your time has expired. Next is Blair Beekman online, followed by Paul the Bold. This is item 5.
Yeah, I understand the item. My Zoom may not be so great at this time. I'm sorry if it'll be cutting out. Thank you for this item. It was interesting and interesting timing in how the previous item was ended up working. I wanted to comment myself that it's my feeling that with the previous item in finding ways of direction, we don't know how to talk about the concept of creating some sort of working group with the people of Mexico themselves. And can that be a part of this sort of agenda item in the future, where it's not just learning the direction of how to create better policies within SANDAG, but policies in how to have better meeting processes with, say, Mexico? Mario could be leading working groups into Mexico and having those conversations a lot more easily, I think. It could be possible. We don't know how to facilitate those conversations yet, and we need those conversations with Mexico. And we seem to be having trouble just facilitating that conversation ourselves at this time with the item. So I just wanted to throw that out there as a suggestion and as a procedural idea of how to, with this item, developing procedures to develop working groups with Mexico in the future. That we have a great connection in how to initially address Mexico, and Mario's great at that. How do we better develop that concept? Good luck with that, and thanks for this item. An important item. Thank you.
Next is Paul the Bold, followed by phone number 1415.
Hi, Paul Bold. I think 1415 dropped off. The General Counsel wants to be authorized to implement specific changes to board policies without board approval for 1. Technical corrections, non-substantive grammatical, typographical formatting, citation, or cross-reference corrections, and 2. Organizational changes, updates to position titles, department names, organizational references, office locations, or admin changes because of agency restructuring. However, the amendment adds the General Counsel shall submit a report to the board summarizing any such updates within 60 days of the changes. Amendments to align board policy language with changes in local, state, or federal laws shall be included on the consent agenda for review and approval. So the board would not be fully informed of important organizational changes for 2 months. You or we might go on vacation and wonder who a new staffer is, or what and where staff offices are. Things like this could affect policy. Informing you guys should be when the organizational change is done, or chaos could ensue. Yes, if implemented correctly, this would provide the flexibility needed to maintain accurate and legally compliant board policies while avoiding unnecessary board agenda items like a huge debate about things like grammar error or citation. But this is incorrect.
Thank you. Your time has expired. That concludes our public comment on this item, Chair.
Very good. Let's go to our board member comment, and we start with Councilmember Casares.
Thank you. I will be super brief. I want to thank Teddy for bringing this forward and for the executive committee for working on this. I think this is really, really smart and really important. A lot of what we do at SANDAG is cleaning things up, and I think that this will help us not make the same mistakes moving forward. And I think cleaning up policies will make it easier for all of us and the public to understand what's really going on inside SANDAG. So I will be supporting this item, and I will make a motion to approve it.
Very good. Vice Mayor Molina, would you like to second that before you comment?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
Thank you, Teddy, for the information. 2 questions. One had to do with the comment about the bylaws. That is outside of board policies. Bylaws or something else?
So no, we have board policies that are here, but the way the board policies are written is that, hey, we have the bylaws, but some of the bylaws say, but it can be changed through a board policy or a simple majority vote. So it's, you either have the bylaws or you have the board policies. The bylaws should be kind of a higher thing, but I think my thought is that certain things kind of got changed throughout time. Like there's a little bit of, the board policies allow you to change the bylaws, but then also the board policies kind of go into this kind of gray area where they expand some of the things on the bylaws. Like the bylaws, for example, say, hey, there's going to be 6 committees, and these are the 6 committees. But the board policies go in kind of allowing you to create additional committees or additional working groups. Was that really allowed or not allowed? There's kind of ambiguity there. And I just want to try to go through and say, hey, the board can do whatever they want. I just want to make sure there's a delineation that bylaws, board policies, there's no confusion as to
Sure.
when they don't talk to each other. That's
Okay.
what I'm trying to do.
Good. I do like that. You're trying to clarify that. And then my other question had to do with the policies. The list of, I think it was like 40 something policies, and then you had grouped them.
Yeah,
Um,
if they want to go back, we can go back to that item if you want to go.
Not necessary, but
Okay.
was that a sampling of the policies or is that all of them?
That's all of them.
All of them. Okay. And do you anticipate the need to eliminate some of those policies?
I don't think elimination is probably right. Eliminating in the purest form, meaning like, ideally, I want to move all the, let's say structure and governance, right? You have 8 or whatever number there. I want to renumber them and move them over into it so it's logical. There are sometimes certain things that are duplicated in terms of, is there a need to say it twice? That's a duplication, so I'm going to eliminate the duplication, but it's not stripping away any of the power. Now, there could be certain things about, so to answer your question, no, I want to restructure them, but to clean them up at the same time, we'll present everything obviously to the board and I'll explain, hey, we deleted this because of this. It's not deletion of any of staff providing updates to the board or the power of the board, obviously, but it's just to clean up the thing so that it makes it,
Right.
so it reads in a logical manner.
Right. And obviously a substantive change like that would come back to the board.
Oh, all this stuff coming forward, it's going to need board approval for everything
Got it.
moving forward.
Yeah. I think the piece about the ministerial changes, that would be the one where you and CEO and a team would be fine
Yes,
making
and
those changes.
we will provide updates to the board on that written update about we made this change. Like, for example, we made a change from old business location and new business
Yeah.
location. We made that change. They are anything that's going to be of any substance, we're going to come back to the board.
Good.
These are purely minor issues that just need to be cleaned up.
Okay. And I apologize if I missed it. Is there a timeline for when you expect this project to come to completion?
The first step is if the board approves my request, I'm going to make those. We already identified most of the changes. We wanted to obviously get this approval. We will do that very shortly. The next major step is coming back to the board for my proposed revisions to the bylaws. And I'll explain a plan when we come back. Ideally, I'm targeting by the end of this year, we come back with the bylaw.
Wow. Okay. Good. Thank you.
Thank you. First Vice Chair LaCava.
Let me start out by seconding the motion. If that
It had already been
It
seconded.
had, okay.
Yes, by William.
Thank you, Teddy. I was initially kind of reluctant to do this because I have kind of strong feelings about board participation, but I've been convinced of the wisdom of this. I'm going to make 2 requests. I'm not going to add it to the motion. One, that the effective date of changes doesn't happen until after the 60-day report is made to the board. And that 2, that board council has an opportunity to review them to make sure that the line isn't crossed. Not that I don't trust you and Mario, but I think we have a board council for a reason and have that participation. I think you had included that as part of the mechanism.
Yeah, we will be going through that. We will talk to the board council. The only thing, Council President LaCava, the 60 days, I mean, is that a formal amendment or we will just do it? I think we're going to
That would be my request. A
formal amendment?
No, I don't want to amend the motion. I don't want to get into this thing again.
Okay, I'll make that commitment to my initial changes.
Okay.
We will confer with board council on those changes, and also we won't effectively make those changes until 60 days
Okay.
or 60 days, or we'll present the document to the board. If we don't hear anything within 60 days, we'll effectively make that change.
Yeah. Okay, so, and the last thing I'll close with, I am not aware of Mayor Minto's physical attributes, but he did vote no on the last item, so.
Okay, Supervisor Aguirre.
Thank you. Very quickly, I support the recommendation that Vice Chair made right now. I think that's sound. I would also just make a small request to, in the interest of public transparency, even in ministerial changes, if there's a way on the website that you can just put a little asterisk and say, hey, changes made, check them out here, something like that.
And we actually, and I'll give Council President LaCava, he actually pointed this out when we did our preview, is that the board policies right now do have a notation of when they were amended. What we will be doing is if there's an amendment, we will say, hey, this was amended per this new board policy.
Beyond that, on the landing website, I think if somebody comes to our website and it wants to look at our policies or bylaws, they should be able to see immediately that there's been a change or an update beyond the actual document.
Supervisor Gary, as of right now, anytime the board amends the policy formally, there's no notation of when, it just says that it's amended.
And I understand that. So the more significant or substantive changes will have to come to us via consent agenda. But the ministerial ones, I think it behooves for transparency to just put something somewhere on our website, because people shouldn't have to dig through links and links and links to discover that there's been a change, however insignificant it may be.
We can put a cover page on it when we make these changes, that these were changed.
Thank you.
Councilmember Chavez.
And it was along the same lines, and thanks to Teddy for all this great explanations that he just gave us. But it's similar to Supervisor Aguirre's comment. Who determines whether a proposed change qualifies as non-substantive? And I know you might have already answered this, versus something requiring full board approval. And what would be the procedure if the board believes that a change in a report is substantive? So I guess who's the person that's saying, well, this is not going to the board, and how is the public knowing this?
Well, there's a couple of things. First of all, it's not just me, it would be Mario and I both discussing whether this is a substantive change or a ministerial change. That would be the first thing. It wouldn't be just me by myself or Mario by himself. We would both talk. We would formalize this in a written form as a justification, saying, hey, we believe both of this is changed. We would also provide a written report to the entire board about these changes. And let's say we made a change and you say, why did you make this change? We don't think this is a change. You could always request that this be agendized and ask us what's going on. Why is this being changed formally as well? This is just to keep this more nimble, that we don't burden the board with things that are truly minor in nature.
So this 60-day report by 60 days later comes on the consent calendar.
No, for the ministerial changes, it won't go on the consent calendar. We're trying to reduce. Right now, the process is we would be going back to the old process. There wouldn't be any change then, because if we wanted to make any change to the board, we would have to go to the board and explain. We would have to agendize this for board discussion.
Okay, so you're going to send us all a memo saying that these things were done, the address was changed, the name, CEO, blah, 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 all that.
Yep.
Okay, and then anything over and above, basically technical changes and commas and periods. Actually, commas sometimes can make a big difference. Yeah.
Or zeros.
I'm using that as an example, and we talked about this yesterday. Is some people have a love affair. I do too, of the Oxford comma, but it does have legal implications. You are correct. I mean, there's things like extra spaces. There's true, like I said, it's purely clean up in the most minor of matters. We're trying to make it more nimble and take off things that the board would have to agendize, and it'd be another discussion point where it is.
Okay, but just a point of order here. I made the gamble that we didn't have to make a motion to extend the meeting. It's 12:28. Do we have have you been satisfied with you? Yeah,
I am. Thank you so much.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. I'm going to call for the vote right now.
Yeah, I was going to say we're right on.
Yeah.
On the minute.
San Marcos?
Not received.
Okay.
Not received.
All right. It's approved with Encinitas opposing. Okay. Guess what? This meeting is concluded, and the next Board of Directors meeting will be July 24th at 9 a.m. Have a good weekend.